What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Strange Road. Actually, this one's loosely being, the working title is Cryptids of the Strange Corn Road SWAPCAST, baby. Welcome.
I love it.
We have our boys from Cryptids of the Corn, Justin and Jay, in studio with us tonight. I am Mikey, and this is Bub.
What's up?
And we've met these guys leading up to Cryptidcon. We decided to become sponsors of Cryptidcon, and I started looking down the list of other sponsors, and my buddy called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, have you heard of these Cryptids of the Corn guys?
Yeah.
Have you heard of this show?" And they're from Ada. So it's like, well, they're on this list of sponsors and vendors at Cryptidcon. So I decided to reach out, and we started chatting a little bit before Cryptidcon and hit it off and got to hang out with you guys and had some drinks.
We had a blast.
Just some drinks.
Just a few.
We had a little bit of a late start. You guys were definitely ahead of us a bit.
We had a head start.
Yeah.
It was our listeners' fault. I'll put that out there right now, guys. You know who you are.
Yeah. Shout out to their Patreon members that were hanging out with us. All great people. But you guys are killing it, man. You know, you guys have a great show. You guys, I think, work really, really well together. We get a little business out of the way. Why don't you tell us where we can find you guys and, give us a little background.
I'm not used to being recorded, so it's just like.
Yeah, I'll leave that to you. You're good at it.
All right. Every major, podcast app, we have a YouTube, and we try to do the YouTube as like fun stories that are exclusive, like just to YouTube. They're always like, what have we been doing lately? Just add a book. Like, I have this gigantic library of cryptid books. I was like, let's pick a random book, pick a random story, let's read it, and then let's talk about it. So we like that because there's no work on my end I have to do.
Well, there's really no work at all besides me reading.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like I said, no work on my end.
Yeah. Oh, shoot.
No, but found on every major podcast app. Facebook, we do a live show every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Cryptids and Coffee.
Mm-hmm.
We try to do some throughout the week in the evening. We have slacked off on that due to holidays and stuff like that. I don't think we've done one since before Thanksgiving.
It's that time of season, though.
Yeah, we'll start back up again in January.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Instagram. What am I forgetting? Oh,
Cryptids
Patreon.
and cryptidsofthecorn.com.
Oh, yeah.
A
Jay
website Justin built.
loves to shout that out that I built our website.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm a dumb fish guy, so that was it was a lot harder than it needed to be.
We started off, we're just getting help now redoing our website, and Kyle, for the most part, built the first iterations of ours. It's a big project, so kudos to you guys for landing the website.
Oh, yeah, and then got a shout out. We are doing a live show with Hillbilly Horror Stories, April 22nd, Post Town Elementary there in Middletown, Ohio.
Okay.
We have that on the website. We have it on Facebook and stuff like that.
Yep. Tickets just went on for sale.
Yep. And that will be content we do not share anywhere else, just to kind of make it worth it and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exclusive.
Yeah, I've already been saving them back for
haunted middle
Absolutely.
school?
Yes. I have no idea. I don't know the story behind it.
Okay.
I-
You're going to find out.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all that stuff, right? Am I forgetting anything?
I think you covered everything. You mentioned the Patreon as well.
Do movie nights on there. We do trivia nights.
Yep.
Dude, fun.
So we do it'll be trivia questions about stuff on the show. Jay will take the test just to see how good it is, to see how much he retained and stuff like that.
Right, which is never that much.
Oh, you did okay.
I did all right. I passed.
Yeah,
If there was a test, I would have passed.
Dude, that's great.
You got to make sure.
I love that. I passed.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
Jay's been there for every episode.
And I don't remember over half of them.
I don't blame you. I don't either.
It moves by fast, though. It really does.
So how long have you guys been a show?
Just a little over
When
a
did
year.
you guys start?
A year and like 3 weeks now. Right?
Yeah. I think the official first recording was November 11th. Oh, okay. I was like, I thought I heard something, but
I was thinking that
I thought I was having a stroke.
I've been watching a lot of Stranger Things, so I was like, maybe it's the Russians.
The Russians,
I
number
took my
stations.
headphone off for a minute, like, nope,
Oh, they weren't getting in my headphones.
he's blocking it all.
Yeah.
DA approved.
What was the question? I don't even remember.
How long you guys have been? How long
Oh.
you've been podcasting?
Yeah,
How
so
long
like
have you
Jay
had
said, a year and 3 weeks. November 11th, I think, was our first recording session ever. So literally, we had recorded the first episode right before we went down to Cryptidcon, as just going to hang out.
Right.
And,
Okay.
Telling everybody like, yeah, we have a podcast. Don't have any episodes out. Doesn't exist.
Right.
So how long from
Fake it till you make it.
how long from that we have a podcast to getting that first episode, or did you have a first episode?
So we had recorded it right before Cryptidcon. I actually think it came out that week. So I think there was an episode out. But
Okay.
It was rough. Let's just put it that
It was
way.
with
And
a
so that's
$20 microphone
shit.
in our friend's kitchen with German shepherds running around barking.
Oh.
The audio was horrible.
Was
So we sat out in the cold last night with our thermal imager, and we scared the hell out of a possum. We did. We could see something, so we put. I won't say what we put out. There was something that was desirable out in the middle of this forest for some reason. I don't know who did it or what. And we could see something coming up and messing with the pile. And we're like, oh, is that a Bigfoot's hand? So we run down there, and it's a freaking possum pulling off the pile.
That's awesome.
And he's just looking at us like, how the hell did you guys know? Like, how'd you know we were here? We were up top of this ridge. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, about a year and 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So whose idea? How did you guys get together? How did you guys?
This is
link
Jay's
up?
favorite story.
Okay. Well, we've known each other for I don't know how many years.
Forever.
I mean, pretty much
Yeah.
growing up. We're
Our
small
grandpas
town.
were very close friends.
That is true.
Very
Our
cool.
grandpas were like best friends, which is
That's so cool.
weird coming around. My mom actually spray painted
I was going to say that.
his grandpa's the side of his car.
She
it's-
did with black spray paint. So, Mike, real quick, Grandpa Ray just passed this year. He was a great fan of the podcast. He was a professional painter. He still has cars that he painted. They're out there still winning car shows.
Wow.
So this is not just you somebody spray painting your car.
Right.
So when my mom was a little girl, he used to give her rides in the town, and she wrote Ray's taxi service on the side
Oh my.
in black spray paint.
On a car's paint, the paint on it alone in like that in the 70s.
Probably. I don't
It was
know.
like $5 or $6 grand in paint,
I just know.
and he left it.
Yeah, she's probably the only person that could have got away
Oh
with
yeah,
it.
Oh yeah.
He was just like,
absolutely.
oh, okay, Vicky.
Yeah.
That's
But so
crazy.
we didn't know each other really growing
No,
up.
no.
Because we graduated probably 6 years apart from high school, but so I work at a bowling alley, and Justin comes in quite often for euchre night, partakes
Okay.
in some
Best
drinks.
bar in town.
Thank you. And so one night I was bartending, and we've talked from time to time, about whatever. But then one night Justin approaches me as I'm bartending and just says, "Do you believe in Bigfoot?"
Aggressively, I was
Yeah.
belligerent.
He was, "Come over here. Come over here right
Few
now."
drinks. Few
yeah,
drinks
a
in ya?
few.
A
Yeah.
few, yeah. He was, yeah. So he fingers me over there, like, "You get over here now." I'm like, "Uh-oh, what'd I do?" And he's like, "Do you believe in Bigfoot?" "Oh, yeah, duh." And then, so we started a Bigfoot group, Hardin County Bigfoot Society.
Okay.
So he just had the idea of, let's gather around, get people in town, let's just talk about it. He printed up newsletters for each.
I had very nice stuff. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
he was prepped. Like, he had this idea in his mind for a long time. Just finally, in a drunken stupor, it forced its way out. And and it did. So we formed this, just going to meet once a month. Let's discuss Bigfoot with whoever in town wants to join us. So our first meeting, we had us two, Emily, and 2 other people.
Yeah.
So it was us 5. That was the start of it. And that's about as big as it got.
Well, then it got smaller a lot quicker.
The other 2 guys, other than your wife.
It just was
and
scheduling.
yeah.
It just wasn't
Yeah.
working. It wasn't anything against anybody.
Yeah.
It just wasn't working. It was just,
Well, and it's tough for something
Yeah.
like that. That's just an interest to say we're going to be.
yeah.
Yeah.
And how
Doing
many
anything as you
people-
get older gets difficult.
Yeah, so we just kind of...
We just talked about it. And that's what birthed the idea of Justin's like, well, we should just go out, because we wanted to plan on doing like Bigfoot, excursions and stuff, and see if we can bring people along, just
Get
have
out in
fun.
the field.
Yeah, and do it, and bring people with us in the group to do it. And he's like, well, we should record, like, talk about it, and then start a podcast and just talk about what we're doing. I was like, well, that sounds like fun. I've never done a podcast before. Sure, why not? Let's just do it. So he went out and bought, the $20 mic.
It was a $100 kit you can get on Amazon. They still sell it. And it had a recording board, all your cables, and a mic. It is not worth it.
But it got us our start.
Now, it did. Now, I will give it that credit. It was enough to be like, okay, well, I guess this is equipment.
Well, we have a podcast now.
Yeah,
let's
so we could
recorded
officially
audio.
say
It's
it.
like anything
Yeah,
else.
We recorded audio.
Yep.
Drink wine. you start off. It doesn't matter what kind of wine it is. You're like, that's terrible. As you go,
It's just wine's wine.
yeah, you don't know what you know, until you get there and start going, okay, that was terrible in retrospect.
I had this giant box over the first 6 months. So our first 6 months was rough. We got better stuff, but we had this whole big box.
Which was like less than 7 months ago.
I know, because but the last 6 months has been a whole different experience.
Yeah.
But it was just like I had this whole big box of audio cables. I didn't know what it even did. We were buying stuff that wasn't compatible with the other stuff we had because we didn't understand anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So finally, we just started going through. Okay, this is what these words mean. This is what and finally we got stuff that I remember we put a bunch of money together, not a small sum of money.
Right.
Went over to a company called Sweetwater. Love them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I'm just like, here's this sum of money. I want a complete, nice podcasting kit.
Yeah.
Everything, mics, board, computer. I want it all. This sum of money. I want it all to work. I'm tired of buying stuff that's not compatible with this other crap we own.
Blowing out 2 mics that you just got.
Oh my gosh.
Forgot about
Didn't
that.
know
Didn't
what
you?
phantom power was.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So I
it's
blew
little
out
things.
these mics that didn't need power.
Uh-huh.
I sent electricity to them. I'm like, these stupid mics don't work. Yeah, because they freaking fried them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, 2 in a row. 2 back to back.
Mistakes were made, but that's how you learn.
So that was nice. And then, so after that.
Well, I was going to say, I didn't know Justin had a Bigfoot experience. I didn't know he had extensive interest in Bigfoot or just cryptids in general.
You don't know what you're talking about. It's a very long story.
Well, we got time.
I know.
We can give the quick version.
We can get
But I found that out during one of our Hardin County Bigfoot Society meetings. That's when I found out. I'm like, oh, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And so it definitely helped. That helped. Just him telling that story.
Yeah.
Kind of
icebreaker.
And then that's when I went over to his house and seen his plethora of books and everything of just everywhere.
Bigfoot Trackcast.
Bigfoot.
Like a psychopath.
Pictures all over the walls, just cryptid stuff, and I didn't know this side of him before.
You were living it and breathing it even before the show.
So after I had my Bigfoot encounter, I was 17.
Okay.
My dad and my brother both had the same encounters. All of our family had experiences. We didn't talk about it for 5 years.
Outside of Ada.
Yeah.
Around Ada.
Hardin County line. Allen Hardin line.
Okay.
County Road 60. There you guys go. Find it. Go bug. You go get. If anybody goes out there, you'll get shot. Just so you know.
Probably.
Yeah, and I'm not going there.
It's not worth it. There's not a Bigfoot out there right now. I feel we had a very special situation.
But we even discussed on the way down here more factors that could have led to the reason why he was there. But anyways, go on.
I don't even remember what I was saying. See, that's why we don't do anything live. We cut this all out.
Yeah, it's all good. It's the fun
I think
of it.
we were digging on.
Yeah.
How'd you meet? How did you get started? So you started the Bigfoot
interest.
Meetup discussion
society,
group
yes.
society.
That fell apart, not due to anybody's fault, and we were still sitting. So we're like, like Jay said, might as well set a mic down.
Always, yeah.
We really, I think, episode 3. It was the Frogman, the Loveland Frogman.
Yeah, baby.
Was when we actually found what we wanted to do with the podcast.
Your kind of
The
your
format.
system,
style
your
and format.
Yeah, because we wanted to just discuss our excursions.
Because you guys are research based, heavily research based, where you go in and you dig in. Yeah, you were saying about 16 hours a week or something like that.
So we do 3 shows at least.
Just research.
Yeah. So between all 3, the scripts and the research for those is probably about 16 hours.
And he's just nuts.
Jay does about 22 seconds a week.
Maybe. That's pushing it.
I think you would agree. I'm just like.
We tag teamed the Giants episode. I think we were both as far as the research went. I'm more of I did a lot more of the script writing and kind of organizational stuff.
Yeah.
But Giants, I mean, we sat down a bunch of nights and banged through books and got sites and you know tried to make it. We had a lot of great images that we were really trying to pull in and some stuff like that. But Bub and I have known each other since kindergarten, so we've been super thick of thieves for forever,
long time.
And I kind of always thought that Bub and I would just travel around the world and do a paranormal show together. That was always kind of like
Sign me up.
when we were kids, because we had the same interest. UFOs, cryptids, paranormal in general, conspiracies. We, kind of bonded over that, but
good stories.
Yeah,
right? Good campfire stories,
Yeah.
good scary stories.
Oh,
Whatever. Jeez, man, stuff that you just don't get out of your head.
Yep.
I still remember so many stories from being a kid of like,
Yep.
I can't believe that. And then you get older and you start to have your own experiences or run into people that have, and you're starting to go, okay. And I don't know, just having somebody kind of tap you when you're old enough and kind of, hey, you need to look this way.
Yeah.
Not like anything super concrete, but just kind of open your eyes a little bit more. And then, we just feed each other or have over the years of like, have you read this? Have you read, and just naturally over time, it's like, that's what most of our discussions would turn into. I would have to actually screen his calls from time to time, because like depending on where I was going or what I would
get
do,
obsessed about
I knew it was going to be like, man, this might be a 3 hour. Like,
I've never gotten obsessed about it, have I?
Oh, never. Yeah.
It was.
You've gotten so many weird calls where I just scream at you.
Weird
Screaming.
texts.
Screaming.
Yep. I mean, even before really, like, I got into video production, like, my main interests are paranormal, spirituality. There's, UFOs, cryptids, and I always thought, like, getting into video production, which I kind of got in the game late to the game, and went back to school pretty much when I was in my 30s to study film and video. And then through that process met Stoner and Ron and the guys over at we all worked at Promo West here in town, the concert production company. So that's how I met Stone and those guys, and we really clicked shooting concerts and festivals. And so it was never my goal to like be the best concert video production specialist or even the best, doing video production, getting in my foot in the door to learn, but really doing this was always my ultimate goal. Not necessarily a podcast, but creating content and pursuing things that I'm passionate about and interested in. And video is kind of like a vehicle for me to explore. And then, like I said, I always kind of pictured him as my, wingman in that journey. So
ever since he's had a camera, but even before this, you might not have known what to do with it, but you were always filming stuff.
Oh yeah. Like my mom's old
what was it? Protest Wall Street, or what was the? Yeah. All of that going on down. I mean, if there was something going on, Mikey was there
banging my head against the wall,
or go meet somebody that had a story. Or I mean, you've been collecting for a while, and I think you were always going down that path because again, it's just like. As a kid, even that's all I wanted from people. Like, just tell me. I hate to say it, but like, if you
interested in stories,
if you had something unique to talk about or something crazy or off the wall, whatever it is, it could be anything. But as I've gotten older and just again, kind of like, we know what we know, but there's a lot of unknowns and there's a lot of contempt and thinking that we have it all locked down and that we really understand everything, right? Like that's where I'm at. Like just
I have a sound bit for Jay saying screaming we know nothing.
And it's so true.
It's pretty much
I mean,
true.
once you really go deep into one thing,
right,
you're just like for example, like one of our big Kyle and myself and Bub too, so like kind of bringing them into the world of ancient civilizations, lost technology, weird out of place artifacts, because the conspiracy stuff and a lot of that got me so burnt out and just mentally drained that I really started going deep into spiritual technology, spirituality, trying to understand myself, and then through that process, like understanding how the pyramids are built. These technologies that, once you start going down that, then it really opens up. It's like everything is really connected.
Everything.
Like all of these subjects that I've had, the ancient civilization stuff kind of tied everything together. All the things I was into when I was a kid and in high school and when in my 20s, it really does tie everything, all of my passions and interests together, because it is magical, paranormal shit. And so, in 2020, really this was our pandemic project, the shutdown. So, we didn't have creative outlet, all the concerts, the festivals, everything went away. So we decided to, we've been wanting to kind of, instead of being a loose band of freelancers, we really needed a company to do bigger events and to do bigger projects. So that's when the Strange Road, the company, was created to, be able to, number one, start the podcast in that brand, but also have a company where we could produce virtual events, live streams, and kind of take all those skills we learned together separately, at times together, but and kind of bringing it under this umbrella and trying to build an arc to just allow us to explore weird shit.
Exactly.
Like, pretty much.
Well, and not only that, like, a couple of years back when you guys landed DOD, Dimensions of Disclosure, they did the live stream production for that out in California, which was basically like a mini Ancient Aliens / ufology conference for the weekend. I mean, it's
like Contact in the Desert, a little bit smaller version of Contact in the Desert.
It was pretty big, though. I mean, and there were a couple guys from Ancient Aliens. We were
David Wilcock,
filming,
Corey
David
Good.
Wilcock,
Yep,
yeah.
I know those guys.
Hung out with a few of them.
They're Jay's wheelhouse.
Doing some,
Corey
I went
Goods.
along and just helped out doing like odds and ends stuff because, again, I have no real
Bubba's our
talent with
PA.
video.
He killed it, too.
It was a fun time, but like doing that, and then seeing what I've always thought too is, like I was telling you earlier before we started the show, I was talking about John Keel and trying to find good video audio of like talks and conferences, etc.
Yeah.
It's not there.
Mm-hmm.
They might put up a camera, but I'm like, this is such valuable stuff though. Like, I mean,
you've seen how garbage our video is.
Yeah. What? No.
So you already saying yeah.
No.
But try to go.
You already
to,
said yes.
No.
Like it always bothered me because you go to Graham Hancock, like back in the day, even like now it's getting a lot better.
Yeah.
But go try to find 4 or 5 years ago a good video of a Graham Hancock presentation.
No, I agree.
Where they're not
accurate.
shooting the screen. He's in front of a projector and you're shooting the screen instead of bringing it in digitally and having that slide deck integrated with a broadcast quality show. So we got kind of obsessed with like wanting to take over that alternative conference live stream and AV world where we can help these conferences kind of up their game and
because if I don't want to go to Sweden and then it's in Sweden,
live streams,
but somebody can put on a live stream and I can watch that. Yeah, because I can't find that on YouTube. There's no good clips of this. There's no good documentaries anymore that I can find that have this. I mean, I would love to see stuff like that. So,
and she tried to do a live stream the year before, and it just absolutely failed.
Yeah.
They tried to do it themselves, not realizing like you got to sit there and babysit those cameras. You got to babysit that stream. You got to take it. Have something to roll to after the conference, the speaker's done in between.
It's work.
They're switching over. Like you can't just casually run a live stream in a video production. So, we shot this little Tribalize event and live streamed a bunch of these sessions at this place in Loveland, Colorado. And the couple weeks later, Dimensions of Disclosure, their event was there. And the AV guy there was like, hey, you need to call these guys from Columbus. Like, they can really, really help you with next year's live stream. Because he's like, dude, it was horrible.
Yeah.
Like, you guys really need to help it. I'm going to give her your number. So Adrian Youngblood contacted us. And then it took probably we had 12 guys. We traveled from Ohio out there and put on a beautiful 3-day live stream. Ron, Stone, they executed it beautifully. It was fantastic. Got a lot of eyes. And then we just kind of thought, we're going to take this shit over, this alternative conference world.
It would have been great.
Yeah.
And I get to go do what I want. Listen to all of the stuff I want to hear.
And we got to interview all those guys. David
awesome.
Wilcock, Corey Good, that's how we met David Lombear Sonopass and Clifford Mahooty.
Yeah.
So those videos that you see on our YouTube page, 2 of those are from Dimensions of Disclosure. We had a little room set up. We did interviews set up.
There was a lot going on. There were a lot of different rooms with different speakers at different times, and then they were in another room filming a documentary, and it was all happening at one
editing
time
it
in a hotel
and feeding it
on
back
the beach.
into the show.
Like,
That's awesome.
it was fun. It was really cool. It
But then COVID happened.
very random.
Boom.
Bam.
Killed it all.
It just all went away.
Done.
All the concerts, the fun shit we were like really primed up to do, because our whole motto was, let's get in with these conferences, and then on the side we're shooting interviews
For your own content.
for our content. So that was like really the pilot for a lot of the stuff that we're still trying to do now. You know, we have clients. Our business on the production side of things started taking off in you know, about mid 2020 when the summer started coming and work started coming back. So, you know, this has been a project for over 2 years now, like to get the studio kind of where it is. And
It looks great.
Yeah.
It looks awesome.
Hey, as long as you keep working at it.
But this is what we did this
Absolutely.
for. We want to have guys like you come in and hang out and provide like a safe, dope space to just get in deep.
Well,
What
and
do
do
we
what we
wanna
like
talk-
to do, which is
talk
talk to
about-
people.
You lured
and
us in here with beer first off. I want to make that very clear.
we had them set out in the hallway.
There were several
Yeah.
by
texts
one.
Little trail.
that were just kind of hitting at cider being here.
Oh yeah. Well, we saw the pile of ciders in front of y'all at the hotel
Cryptidcon.
bar at Cryptidcon. But you know,
It's Jen's fault.
Yeah.
It is Jen's fault.
There you go.
if she's
yeah.
watching this, because they commented on it earlier that they might come and watch.
Nice.
Jen,
cool.
it's your fault
We got some.
because it was horrible. Because
Shout out to Jen. She's
Cheers.
one of your
still
your
drinking since Cryptid.
Yeah,
Patreon
thank you.
No,
members
just
or just,
just hanging
overall
out.
fan.
Yep.
Yep.
Cool. Well, I mean,
Yeah, Crypticon was crazy. I have a history at conferences
In what way?
of not remembering them.
getting extreme.
Oh, hello.
He just likes moonshine.
Yeah.
And
So
cider.
I don't drink
or
it at
whiskey.
home.
Yeah,
Cider I drink at home. I don't drink moonshine at home. Moonshine specifically
gets you fired up.
for conferences.
Yeah.
I don't get like wild as in bad wild, but I get
No.
loud.
Yeah.
Loud.
Yep.
And I
yep.
start
Yeah.
screaming that jellyfish are in the skies, and it just it's the same stuff we talk about. I just get louder with it.
Yeah, a little more aggressive with it.
Yeah. Not in a bad way aggressive.
No.
I'm
Just,
I'm
talk
definitely not
louder.
a mean drunk.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no,
not at all. Not
I'm
at all.
a pile of jelly.
You can put it
Yeah.
away, and it's shocking how much you can put away and just be fine. Still conscious,
What? No, there's
still coherent thoughts, but when you're ready to go, you're done.
there's always that one beer that tips me over.
Yep, and you know it because he's out of there. He'll be
That's
talking
And
100
then
miles
just
a minute,
gone.
and then he's just gone.
I can't see my hand anymore.
He's in
It's
bed.
time to lay down.
Yeah, in bed.
I do the
snoring.
hand test.
You gotta-
Some people have seen me do it, where I just, I look at my hand. I'm like, can I see my fingers? All right, can't. It's time to lay down, and then I'll be up at 5 a.m.
Oh gosh.
I am. I'm up. I'm always the first one up.
Yep. And
Grandpa Ray taught me that a long time ago. If you can be a man in the night, you got to be a man in the morning.
That's a great way to live, man. That's
So
a great.
I am not a morning person.
Neither am I. But if you party hard and you have to do something in the morning,
If
you
get
don't
up,
back off of
Well,
that.
get it
that
out
I
of your
can agree
system.
with. Yeah,
Yep,
I'm just saying
absolutely.
I don't do it as a like if it's Saturday and I get a little too far off into the tequila wonderland. I'm not waking up Sunday at 5 just to wake up.
Well, yeah, it's more because we're at the conferences and stuff like that. Like we have to
That
have
I
our
can-
booth set up at 6. And
That I can get down. Yes.
I got a funny conference story for you if you guys want to hear it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Our first conference ever was Ohio Bigfoot OBC. Hi, Sparky. He's the guy who runs it. It is crazy. Ohio Bigfoot Conference is one of the best conferences in this country.
Yeah, for sure.
In the country. A-list speakers, great people run it, and the camaraderie run the whole event. Like we go there from Thursday, and we stay till Monday
Okay.
because there's so many great people involved. That like we have people like friends coming in from like way out of state and stuff that'll hang out.
Oh, it's big.
Yeah. 11,000 people, I think, is what they did this year, something like there. So
See, I would love to reach out to them, and that's one somebody we've tried to get a hold of them in the past to just help out.
Yeah.
And it's right near. It's very, very close.
what they
Oh,
used to do, so it's famous for selling out in like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And it does. Every year it does. For the speakers. Anybody can go to the main event where you can see, you can come hang out with us. You can go, but to see the speakers, there's only like 100 seats.
Okay.
And so there's people that like hover over this like a hawk.
Wow.
Waiting just
But
to
they
click.
used to have this
Right when
giant
they go on
conference
sale.
center
Oh, bad.
where you
Wow.
could pay $5 to watch the speakers on videos. When they stopped doing that a while ago. I don't know why. Because there was so much overflow.
Yeah.
But I don't know the reasonings
Yeah.
behind anything. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's...
We actually talked to Jeff from Cryptidcon about that.
Oh,
I
yeah,
introduced
yeah.
myself to Jeff towards the end of the event. It's like, hey, we'd love to be more involved sponsor if you guys needed anything on like the AV side, like how can we help you kind of up the level of what in the conference room? And he's like, I would love to have some help with that. That'd be great. But he was talking about doing an overflow room where just having like a TV.
Yeah. Especially
even
those
this.
size of
Yeah.
events.
Yeah, for sure.
Even this last one was difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, we would go early to get to a seat because we're like,
It depends on the
Man,
speaker heavily. You know.
By the way, Micah Hanks. Wow.
I saw that one. That's the one I sat in on.
Dude, Micah's the
that was
man.
great.
I would love Micah Hanks. If you're out there, I know we're a little show.
that was
You're a
great-
busy man, but
Well, you're also
Great
talking
speech.
on our show right now, so maybe
yes, absolutely.
email below.
Thank you.
Yeah, his presentation was great.
But so Ohio Bigfoot, they have this great thing. That's the funnest part of the conference in my mind for everything with Ohio Bigfoot is the after party.
Okay.
And it's not like a party. It's they set up a giant bonfire with a ton of chairs,
nice.
and we all go sit out and hang out in the woods together, right behind the facility. And it's super nice, and people start sharing Bigfoot stories. I ran it I kind of forced myself to take control of it for a little bit because I brought out a bunch of stuff to give away and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There was kids and stuff, so I was like, all right, kids, whoever does the best Bigfoot howl gets a prize. So we had like a bunch of kids doing a Bigfoot howl and stuff like that. I gave them all a prize. You know, they all got the same prize.
Yeah.
And then we were throwing T-shirts out and stuff like that, you know, and then talking Bigfoot stories.
The moonshine took over.
Well, okay. So here's how I pace myself at those conferences. I don't bring beer or I don't bring cider.
Yeah.
I only bring me a jar of moonshine when it's gone. It's gone. I drank enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem with the Ohio Bigfoot Conference is this lady comes up. It's like midnight. Okay, we're wrapping up. We're talking with Eric from Uncomfortable, Joel Thomas from Killing Mockingbirds. And we're like, all right, we're starting to wrap up. We're out of whiskey. We're out of moonshine. This lady comes walking up with this giant pull-behind cooler. We're like, okay, she's got beer. And then she starts handing out these, about like this candle right here.
Glass jars.
Jars of clear liquid.
Clear liquid.
To everybody. Everybody gets their own jar.
Oh.
And we're all like, oh, what's this? And she's like, I won't say the name because of this.
Yeah.
Moonshine that my brother made us. Homemade shine.
Yeah.
And it tasted so bad.
Turpentine.
So good.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Like real
white lightning.
Real moonshine.
It was white lightning.
It tastes like burnt corn and fried hair. So you knew it was good stuff. So we do this. And I'm like, huh. Well, that was a small bottle. That's a problem. I drank it all, like instantly.
He can drink moonshine like it's water.
Like it's water.
Doesn't matter what kind it is.
So we've
You're
ended up finally going to bed.
predisposed to drinking moonshine potentially.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in your genes. Then
I cannot. I took one sip
No,
of
I
his
can't.
Hawaiian Punch moonshine.
I
and
can't.
Good.
But there's a bunch of liquor if I touch, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
I can't drink
See,
it.
I can drink tequila. Tequila, I'm good.
Our room was the bottom floor, and the closest to the fire, and our door opened up basically to the fire. So I'm like, I only gotta crawl there. I can see the room. I can see the room. So we crawl there. It is like
like, are we talking army crawl?
at the end, yeah. Dragging lawn chairs back because we brought a bunch of lawn chairs out for people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so we're like ugh, dragging these freaking chairs back. So it's like 2:30. We haven't set up yet because it's just how it was happening. There was some confusion with setup and stuff like that, so it was a little funky. So we're like, we got to be set up by 7. You know, people start coming at 7, so we got to be out there at 6. Well, I go to bed, and if I can sleep like an hour, I'll walk it off. It starts pouring outside, and I love rain.
Yeah.
And we have this nice little covered balcony. So I wake up, it's like 5:30. It's pitch black outside, and I can just hear the rain pouring.
Just pelting down.
So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to wake these two up because my wife's in bed with me, and then Jay's in the bed next to us. So I'm like, I'm not going to go wake these guys up. I'm just going to go sit outside. I'll go get a coffee in a minute, and I'm just going to relax and let these guys wake up. I open the sliding door. Crystal clear sky. It's not raining. I turn around, and I don't have my glasses on. I'm pretty much blind without my glasses. I turn around. The whole ceiling is pouring water into our room.
Oh, my God.
Like
you had a leak.
A waterfall.
Oh, my God.
Not like water. And we just bought this like $3,000 in podcasting stuff.
What we were talking about earlier when we
Yeah,
got all of our
right,
new
We
equipment.
bought it the week before.
Oh,
We had it all out on the table because we recorded an episode
Oh
then
my
before we
God.
started drinking.
oh man.
And I scream at the top of my lungs, Jay, grab the stuff. He wakes up and he just doesn't know what's happening, and I'm just throwing podcast equipment across the room. just I'm like, at least if it hits over there and it breaks, it's not being soaked with water.
Yeah.
Jay doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah.
He is taking one of my empty mason jars and catching water from this waterfall and trying to dump it into the sink like it's doing something.
Wait, it wasn't raining out?
No,
There was a leak above us.
a fountain of water was in the room.
Oh my.
It was coming.
But I
in
didn't have my
from the
glasses on,
ceiling.
so I heard rain pelting.
Oh
I
my
assumed it was
God.
outside.
Right.
I
It's
couldn't see it.
It's gonna be a lovely morning. Sit out there with your cup of coffee.
Oh my gosh! So I'm screaming. So finally, thank God, nothing got broken. The maintenance guy was down there in like
He's
half
fa-
a second.
Yeah, he's down there fast.
Yeah, he was a super nice maintenance guy, and he's banging on everybody's doors. So the problem with Ohio Bigfoot Conference is it's in the lodge. It's all cement floors on all the levels, and it's all tilted downhill to us.
Oh Jesus.
So it could have been any room on the second or third floor.
Oh. Okay.
Oh wow.
We're the last room, so that's where the floor ends.
It's accumulating
Yes.
right above your room.
So the poor guy, he was great, but he's banging on everybody's door, waking everybody up, like because it's somebody's bathtub is what it was.
Oh,
Had
yeah.
flooded.
God.
So the next morning, I'm sitting outside, and I'm watching all these balconies, and I'm yelling at everybody. I'm like, "Did you effing drown us? Did you effing drown us?" Just pointing and screaming at these people. Everybody thought it was funny. I was throwing stuff. We have buddies there. We had other podcasts we knew there and stuff like that. I'm
Yeah.
throwing
That's
stuff at their
awesome.
balconies.
That's awesome.
It was a rude awakening that morning.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
He's yelling.
dude.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. I don't care. I just want to go back to sleep.
Yeah. You snapped me up out of a dead sleep.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
My
function.
bed's all wet. Trying
Yes.
to catch it in this jar.
That was the funniest thing. Is Jay's brain is not on, and he's trying to catch this little jar. Like this, it's like that jar. This waterfall coming out of the ceiling, like it's doing something.
It was.
God.
It was.
And he's dumping it in the sink.
Oh.
And I remember screaming at him like, "Put the jar down!" Yeah. Oh, okay.
Dude, when we all go out together, something weird always happens to us. Like we're always in the middle of some drama or situation, whether it be after like shooting a show or at Dimensions of Disclosure that time.
Fire alarm
When
going
we had
off
been,
at the
you know,
Airbnb.
we're in California. We're in a legal
lot
recreational
of
state,
yeah.
and
Huh?
you know, may have been partaking all day and all night on the back. We had an Airbnb and a patio, and we were up just working on graphics and
Oh,
prepping
God.
for basically the setup the next day.
This is good.
And we all, Cody, myself, Cody is Kyle's younger brother,
Okay.
little stoner, and you just hear like somebody peeling out on a loud Harley motorcycle. I mean, right behind our Airbnb.
I was trying to go to sleep,
And
I
you
thought
just
the
hear
neighbor was
squealing
really mad at
tires,
us.
and then
It's weird.
crashes, this huge crash, and then silence, and there's nothing, and then you just hear, "Oh man, what have I done?
What have I done?
What have I
That's
done?
not what you want to be here yelling into the
You
night.
dumbass!" This guy yelling at
No,
himself
in like a
in this,
like
oh
a
God, like
shrill-
anguish.
Oh, why?
God. And then eventually it got to the point where he's like, "Why, God? Why?" So we're just like, "What the fuck is happening?" Somebody back. He's like, "I'm hurt."
But you can't.
This guy's yelling.
you
We're
can't
like,
go from this.
"What do we
property
do?"
And get to the next property.
It's in
because
California.
there's
They're all
walls
cemented
everywhere.
walls in between.
Oh, so it's you
the
can't even
property.
do
You'd have to
anything.
go around the entire
and these
block to
huge
get right behind our
arborvitaes,
house.
you know, arborvitae bushes, like hedgings.
Yeah.
Huge bushes where like even if you got over the wall, like to get across those arborvitaes. So Bub being a nurse, I go run into his room like, dude, wake up. I think some dude's fucking dying
Yeah.
in the backyard. So Bub's like, ah.
I think I went down
wakes
the
up
road in just a pair of
No
pants,
shoes,
no
pair of
glasses,
pants, no shirt.
contacts.
And just
running.
we're like climbing up over this wall, realizing that we can't get over the wall. So we take off through the front, and Cody and Stone, we're all like, I'm calling 911. And then Bub's like trying to run all the way around.
I gave up halfway.
So finally, I get on the phone with 911, and this lady's like, oh, sir. I was like, yeah, we just heard this huge motorcycle crash. I don't know what's going on. Some guy's hurt. I don't have no clue what's behind us. Oh, sir, you must be talking about the gentleman that wrecked his motorcycle at the Motel 6. I was like, oh, there's a Motel 6 behind us. Yeah. That makes sense. Because he was in the parking lot and just, like, took off like a bat out of hell. And then crashes, and he's just back there. Oh, God, why? You dumbass, why?
But for, like, 20, 30 minutes.
And 911 comes. The cops come, and they're just going, yeah, man, we can't move you. I don't know why are you just standing there? Why don't you help me? And by this time, we're like, okay.
He might have been under the bike. Like,
I don't know. The EMT's coming. Emergency's coming. The cops are there. And we were unfortunately, we were
couldn't help
dying
it after a while.
Laughing. We were just like.
Because it seemed like a comedy sketch.
Yeah. And it was one of those.
Like, he's like, why won't you help me? And they're like, because, we got to wait till
the
EMT
we can't show up. The hog was on
legally
top of him.
Well, no. Yeah.
So the muffler might have been burning his leg. Because he was in anguish.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why
are
we being pulled into this?
It was wild.
Like
I said, the time that one of our buddies was making a pizza when we were at an Airbnb.
Yeah.
And all the toppings fell off. When he went to put it in the oven, they all fell off and hit the bottom, right?
Yeah, in the
they
bottom
put it in there.
Stove.
So we're upstairs in this loft, and we just hear him talking to himself downstairs. This is like 2 in the morning.
Oh,
like,
no, man. No,
what
man.
What the hell is he doing down there? Why is he talking to himself? And the next thing you know, it's just smoke and alarms are going off. And we're like, what? He's like, and he's down there like hopping up and down. We're like, so we take off down the stairs. Kyle gets stuck in the railing as he's going down, like falls.
Flies down. Boom, 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 boom,
the alarm at the Airbnb is attached to automatically call the fire department.
Yeah.
So now we're like, okay, great.
So the
There's
owner
going to be a
calls
fire
the
truck
house.
here at 2
Oh,
a.m.
no.
And
we're
I'm
at
like,
Serpent Mound.
Stoner answers the phone.
No.
Yeah, this is outside of Serpent Mound. We went there for a little, like,
it was great.
Getaway retreat with the crew, and it's like,
it was fun.
Let's build a big fire, let's get recentered, have some laughs.
Yeah.
And we were just laying down and just like, I was drifting asleep when all of a sudden smoke just starts bellowing up over the top. So Kyle answers the phone and the lady's like, so what's going on? He's like, oh, sorry, we just burned a bag of popcorn in the microwave. No big deal. And they're like, freaking brilliant. Like, just came up with it like that. She's like, well, the fire department's probably going to come.
We need a fire truck out here.
You need to go and meet him at the end of the lane. So Kyle goes down there for like 25 minutes. Fire department never comes, thank God.
Yeah.
But it's just like, man.
Well, that's kind of a bad thing, too.
Yeah.
That they never came.
Yeah.
You could look at it both ways.
We're
we
like,
were
hey,
kind of
we're
happy
good.
because
I know,
like,
in the moment you are, but you're like, if we were really in a house that was on fire,
that would have been problematic.
Burnt
that would have been an issue.
They must have just
best
known.
excuse.
Yeah.
Like how he came up with that. I was just like,
We've
Stoner
had-
on the
saved the day.
spot.
Yeah, it was amazing.
We've had some encounters. Yeah.
I got one for you before we maybe talk about some cryptid stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if Jay knows this one. So this is not something with me and Jay. In my old line of work, when I was a fisheries technician, which is the easiest way to explain it. I was a fishery biologist.
Okay.
It's words that don't mean anything. So I shared basically a hotel room with this guy for 4 months out of the year for 4 years. So me and him were very close. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say his name because this is what he did may not be right. We were in this we stayed in crappy hotels.
What he did may not be right.
We stayed in really crappy hotels forever.
Yeah.
It was like our company it was just something that would happen. We finally get in one nice one though. I don't know if you guys ever had like a stay bridge. They're they're like apartments.
As like a little kitchenette and
Oh,
everything.
No,
yeah,
it's got a whole kitchen.
Oh yeah.
Has a full kitchen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they'll do
Bring
your
it on.
laundry for you and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
it's
If you're
like
more than a week.
Mm-hmm.
They're amazing.
Temporary housing, almost
Basically.
like a hotel.
Yeah, it's so Chicago's full of them because so many people stay there for the week. They'll like rent one for the year, but in the weekend they'll go home, wherever they live in Illinois or Wisconsin or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they'll work out of them.
Sure.
So we just through circumstances we got to stay at one, and it was amazing. It was like we have our own bedrooms. Like me and him have been in these crappy hotels, looking like this close to me and Jay.
Right. Into
After we were in waiters for 10 to 15 hours a day, covered in fish slime. So we reeked every day, and we had to share a shower. It was just, so it was like you're in this nice. We had our own bathrooms, and it's like, why do we have our own bathrooms? This is crazy.
Spoiled.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem: is it had a really fancy stove. We didn't know how to work. Do you ever have those pots that work with the stove surface where they make an electrical connection and they heat up like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never
Like an induction.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So when you let's say you turn it to 8 out of 10.
it's instantly.
It's 8 right now. You'll burn
Like-
yourself bad. But if you take the pot off, you touch it, it's not hot.
Okay, gotcha.
It's super weird.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we had this full kitchen. We're like, we always have to eat this horrible hotel breakfast. And we had a food cart.
Yeah.
So food wasn't an issue normally, but we had to eat the breakfast because of our work schedule. So we're like, we're going to make breakfast. I love cooking. That's what I do now. So we're going to make breakfast. So it is like 5:30 in the morning. We got to be at the truck at like 6:30. We crack some eggs and we get the pot on it, and I put butter in there, and then I threw the eggs in there. Instantly burnt to the pans. Smoke pouring out of this thing. And I can't, I took it off and it's still hot and I couldn't do nothing. Well, the fire alarm starts going off and we can't get to shut off. And we poured water on it and it made it worse. So I don't know if you notice with hotels, your fire alarm can go off for 90 seconds before the whole building goes off.
Oh, wow.
So
if
we're
you can
literally,
stop it.
yeah, we're literally like, it's like second 82. Zach, our buddy Z. Sorry, he's gonna yell at me. Reaches up to the fire alarm, bleep, pulls it out, cords and all.
Oh, damn, like that.
It stopped, and we're like, "Does that work?" We're sitting there thinking, like, "Okay, it's like it has to be 90 seconds at least." Is it alerted the building? We're like peeking in the hallway. Okay, there's no lights going off.
That's hilarious.
So we just said it fell out at the end of the trip.
It just happened.
He ripped wires and everything out of it.
Fell.
You're done.
That saved it, though.
He went,
no more.
because we were so stressed. Our boss was a high stress man.
Okay.
He was a fine man, but any little hiccups and he would like have a meltdown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know people like that.
Yeah.
And we're like, we can't deal with this. This is 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And that specific trip had been horrible already. We were in really bad water. I'm famous. I got really sick because of water. I had Vietnamese lungworms.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we were in bad water.
Wow.
So that was just like we can't let everybody go
I almost
outside.
feel like
because
that
of us.
sounds like a cryptid, a Vietnamese lungworm.
Right?
Close to death.
Christ. That sounds scary enough.
So basically, I got him. I had a hole in my waders, and I got it through my foot. And they can work through your bloodstream and stuff like that, but they congregate in your lungs. And it was right during the start of COVID. So I got really short of breath, coughing, and I just couldn't move. I was so weak. I'd go to the doctor. They're like, all right, you have COVID. You're just not testing positive. I'm like, okay. Go home. Another 2 weeks. I'm not getting any better. I'm so weak, I can't go to the bathroom.
Dang.
Like, I couldn't make it. So my wife would set up chairs in the hallway because I'd have to take a break.
Come on.
Right.
Jeez.
30 feet.
Jeez.
And back and forth. Back and forth. And so we did this for like 8 weeks. And finally, I'm just like, it's not COVID. Like, I'm dying.
Something's happening here.
No, I was dying.
Yeah.
I was.
I bet.
Probably.
They were eating everything. I didn't have any power, and then they were plugging my lungs. And I already had lung trouble. So I didn't have anything to spare.
How do you clear those?
So that's part of the story I have to be really careful telling because I already ruined one thing. Workers' comp sucks. For you to get, for a parasite to get all that time I was off, all that money I lost, and the bills I was accumulating, I have to go to the doctor constantly. They need a species identification. And you have to do a test for each one of them. And let's say the test for each one of them is like $100. So the specialist I was going to was like, here's the problem with this, is that I will find what species this is.
Yeah.
But there are 4,000 species this could be. And we have to do a test individually for each one of them. It's basically $100 a pop.
Jeez.
And he's like, we can start with like the first 30, I think, is the most likely culprit from where you were and stuff like that. And he's like, and I won't, yeah. So he's like, or you can go take something else that you just go buy somewhere that has a red label. And you're going to feel like crap for 2 days. And then you're going to feel great. And I went, so I didn't do anything with workers' comp. I went and bought my own medicine. It was sour apple flavored.
What?
Yeah, I'll tell you off air.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I'm like thoroughly interested at this point. That's
And
crazy.
I did. He was right. I was like, I couldn't leave the bathroom because this medicine makes your body identify. So how parasites work is they basically set off all the immunoreactors that say, hey, we're a part of the body. Don't attack us. We're with you.
Like an
Right.
infection.
Yeah.
It's not sending infection signals.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's how tapeworms get along. That's how all these parasites can survive for so long. This drug turns that up to like 10. They're like, no, we're going to scan the body real thoroughly. The problem is it does get rid of all the parasites, but every imperfection you have, it's probably going to find that too. And it's not a fun process getting all that out of you.
Jesus.
But after that, like 2 days, I was like, oh, I can actually breathe and I can walk.
Good.
But yeah,
That's crazy.
so that was, Vietnamese lungworms, dirty water.
Oh.
And my specialist was like, yeah, I've only ever seen. So why they call them Vietnamese lungworms is because they're not immune to them. Most people are immune to this strain of animal. The Vietnamese have basically a genetic predisposition to be susceptible to this specific species of parasite.
Okay.
The only other people that get it, or he's like, I've only ever seen it, people that like work in the sewers every day, all day, forever.
So that water was.
Well, I tested sewer outfalls. So I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
I am in the
Yeah,
sewer
yeah.
basically every day, all day.
Right. Okay.
So I'm like, yeah,
Gotcha.
that tracks. But
Wow.
I had, so I know it's weird stuff with Justin. I breed a lot of weird salamanders and newts and stuff like that, and a lot of them have toxins.
Yeah. Yeah.
So first I thought I was dying from one of my pets.
Right.
And I'm like, so I'm telling him, we wrote down every species of animal I had, and he had to go back through, and he's like, okay, it's not the rough-skinned newts. Okay, it's not fire salamanders. And it was like, it was a process.
That's wild.
I'm alive.
Thank God.
That's why I drink so much, keeps the parasites out. I'm making my body toxic for everybody.
Oh man, that's great.
That's wild.
So I mean, so give us kind of a layout, I guess, like the ecology of where you guys live. I mean, a great example, real quick, of a story is outside of Lima is the predator Bigfoot that a lot of people have
so
known
the
about.
missing 4-in-1 and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So he was an ONU professor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bruce
Absolutely.
Maccabee.
So that's what made me
Yeah.
think of some of those stories coming out of the Lima area. You guys being right there. I mean, we grew up 40 minutes away and
Yeah.
just outside of Salina. So
Yeah.
we don't have a lot of big sections of woods. It's more just all
Intermittent,
cornfields.
yeah.
I
Right.
mean, they're like splotches.
Hence the name we picked.
Right.
Northwest Ohio, it's known. We're corn. Everybody that's been through it, it's the start of the true Midwest.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the start of the true
Yeah.
Midwest, and the Corn Belt starts in the northeast Ohio, or the
Northwest.
southeast.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
That's the start of the Corn Belt, and it goes all the way out, Iowa, all that. Specific cryptids, though, the Defiance Dogman is a very unique Dogman case.
Right.
Not too far from us. About an hour away, maybe.
And it's
Maybe.
not because it's far, because there's no straight way to get there.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, literally,
There's all those in like the center of Ohio. There's just those zigzag little 1-lane, 2-lane highways.
I mean, for
32.
going from Ada to Defiance, you take pretty much country roads the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And you're
it's-
hitting little towns in between.
Yep.
But he was seen by rail workers first, and then by a lady and a cop. Big classic werewolf dog man kind of thing. Except he hit people with a 2x4.
That was the one odd story from
What?
that.
It was everybody that he would try to attack. He attacked people, but he would take a piece of wood and beat him with it.
That was in
Wow.
one account, yeah. The
But
guy
then-
heard him behind him. He turned around and he was holding it and whack.
So it's some kind of like conscious being in terms
And
of
some
like
of the witnesses claimed that they could see plaid shirt and stuff on him, like buffalo plaid.
A
like
dog
remnants.
man
Yeah.
with a
wow,
2x4.
That seems like a werewolf almost. Like
I'm
it's-
with you. I mean,
It's-
I'm
I
more
know that's
human
the
than
point.
dog.
That's why I
Piecing
brought it
that
up.
all
is 'cause
together.
It's
How many people
even
do you
for
think saw
5 or
how many
6
encounters? Okay.
I think there was 2 or 3 separate
2 or 3 separate events.
events, yeah.
But there was never an event that was just one person.
Correct.
Okay.
Oh, there's always multiple people when he attacked.
Yeah, or
Or
he
just
would attack
witnessed it.
somebody, and then like somebody was down the street and seen what they thought was a mugging happening.
Okay, because he's hitting somebody.
Yeah. So he attacked a woman, and a cop actually got involved.
Dog man in clothes,
Partially
clothed.
some of them said they could see remnants of clothing on
Is
it.
this normal for dog men?
It seems more like a werewolf, like that just
Right.
turned in from a human into
Or
a.
a skinwalker?
Or that, or Some of the people have said like it could be from previous victims and stuff like that. Just like it was literally
It's hanging off of him or something.
caught up in stuff.
Right.
But the two
But
by
the
the
human,
2x4 throws
more
me off.
dog than
Big
human.
time.
If he's got the 2x4.
Oh, so he could have killed that guy. 'Cause
Yeah.
he pretty much knocked him out cold. You know the reason? Like
He hit him and dropped it and took off.
the other rail worker was like say 100 feet away, and seeing this thing come up behind his buddy, clock him on the head, and then let go and ran. Like it was
Odd one.
the whole case
so
is
strange.
just.
And what
Weird.
do those people have to gain to make up some like those
Oh,
railroad
this was in like
workers?
the 60s, right?
Yeah.
Was it back then?
The 70s or 60s?
But I mean,
Possibly.
back
That
then
was an early
especially,
episode when we
you're gonna
covered
look
that.
like a kook.
For sure.
Yeah.
Back in the 60s, if
It's
you're
not going to
if you're-
enhance your local image.
Right.
Especially small town Ohio.
Now,
No,
did they get on the
no.
radio station and tell anybody, tell their story, or
So,
like
no, there
how
was
did the story
a police
get out?
report.
Okay, it was in a wow. So that's
Because the cop was one of the witnesses.
oh my god.
Basically,
Police officer witnesses.
now and once again, we did this probably. This is season 1, like episode
Shoot, like
7 or
6.
8.
Yeah, it's
So
early.
So a long time ago. We're at like we've done 100 and
We were still learning.
like
then.
40 episodes now. We're
Yeah.
that was a while ago.
Yeah.
But I believe with the cop one, that was the one that it was attacking a woman,
Okay.
and then a cop seen it. Like basically, he thought it was a classic mugging, so he's running to stop it, and it's a werewolf, like or a dog man. You know, this big.
Fills out the police report and
Yeah.
it's in public
And
record.
then there's actually a PB out for it, and they assumed I can't remember now, but it was like somebody in a costume is what they were saying. Like,
yeah.
hey, look up for this crazy guy wearing a costume attacking people.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what I was about to ask is like if anybody that did witness this, did they say it looked like somebody in a costume? Or they all were like, nope, it definitely was a...
There's not much outside of what I basically just said for research.
Yeah.
Because it got shut down pretty quick.
That's
The
kind of like
community
our
didn't want
Loveland
to
Frog episode
Yeah.
of, we just did a little chunk of it because it was just like there's not that much information about
Right.
some of these encounters here in Ohio.
It got buried pretty quick.
Yeah. Now the Minerva monster might be the most well documented because it was over like a whole summer. I mean,
Yeah.
it was extended.
It was their pet.
Yeah.
I mean, they even wrestled with it.
right.
what?
Yeah, the kids jumped on its back because they thought originally they thought they lived on the back of the property. They thought it was a homeless man.
Yep.
They would leave food out for it. So basically, they don't want nobody messing with this homeless guy. And they kind of start like this guy watches the property for us, and this is at the start of the Bigfoot encounters.
Okay.
Right.
So they haven't seen it yet. So later on, they see it in their yard and stuff like that. Then they know it's not a homeless guy.
Right.
Mhm.
But before that, like they would literally every time they made dinner, they'd go out to the back of the chicken coop because it would never mess with the chickens. And they'd leave a plate of food out for him because it's like, all right, Ted or whatever, he watches the
Ted.
house.
Ted.
And there was basically an abandoned mine shaft back there and an abandoned coal like storage place. So there was
Okay.
like a little hut back on the backside of this property.
Okay.
So some of the kids basically went out and they're like, we're gonna go mess with this homeless guy. And they jumped on they heard him down below, this kind of like lip. They jumped down on his back. Bigfoot threw him off. They're like, okay, that's not a homeless guy. They didn't do anything more. I mean, that was really the end of it. Is that Bigfoot ran off, the kids ran off. But the throwing rocks. What was the ant? The ant was famous. That's your favorite part.
Yeah, the lady that she said, like, okay, if this is really, what'd she say? If it's-
Basically, she's like, she was saying it was a guy
yeah.
on the backside of the property because this is after they knew it was a Bigfoot. She's like, it's a guy, and he's throwing rocks really, really specific. It's like, if you are a Bigfoot, hit me in between the eyes with a rock. And because it was playing with the kids, it was just throwing rocks back and forth. It wouldn't hit nobody, wouldn't do nothing. Whoop!
Nailed her right,
Right
Pinged her.
Right
right
out
in the
cold.
forehead.
Wow.
Dave and Goliath stuff.
Kind of classic Bigfoot throwing stones.
Yeah.
When they're really, you hear when you're in their territory, they'll toss like big giant boulders.
Yeah.
But that's kind of your classic Bigfoot of getting things like acorns and stuff
to
thrown
move.
at you.
Yeah,
So
so-
that kind of fits the bill.
We always talk about it like, if a Bigfoot's throwing something at you, you'll know whether it's playing or whether it's serious.
Or whether it means it.
Because it can throw something the size of
giant
yeah.
boulder,
So if
yeah.
it's just throwing pebbles at you and it's not hitting you, that's on purpose.
It's trying to get your attention.
Yeah, just seeing what you do. I really believe that's more reactional or even maybe fun.
Yeah.
Let's see
Yeah.
what they do.
Yeah.
Let's see what they do.
Because I think
If you're getting like the golf ball size stuff, that's maybe more serious.
Yeah.
If you're getting a basketball
Knock
size
you in the
rock being
temple.
flying or a log flying past your head,
Yeah.
they didn't hit you because they didn't want to hit you.
Yeah. If they
'Cause
wanted to.
if they were very accurate, at least from anecdotal stories. And
Right,
stuff like
right,
that,
right, right.
That's everything we pretty much talk about is
Pretty much.
Well, they're
It's
humanoid.
educated guesses.
You know, they
Same.
have range
Same.
of motion like we do to be able to throw something. They have a grip, a big giant hand to be able to grip something and come back and put some velocity behind it if they really want to.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And if they're like throwing stuff and that's a part of their, like maybe they throw stuff at each other.
Yeah,
Maybe
probably
they're-
all the time.
So
I mean, so
by the time you're little, you got a cannon. You got a giant Bigfoot cannon.
we kind of
I can't
connect
even fathom.
some of the old troll stories in Europe with maybe a Sasquatch like relative and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like that.
for
Right.
sure.
You know what they
I
used to
thought
do?
about trolls.
Is they would basically play tag with rocks. That's what, troll stories. Like they literally, that's where they'd say all these stones were from. These giant random, what we'd call maybe over here like a glacial erratic.
Yep, like
You know,
where it drops.
yeah.
The glacier.
But they were
melts
saying that
and the
literally it
stone
was
drops.
these trolls that would throw rocks at each other because that's how they played. And if your town just happened to be in the middle of a game, that was bad news.
Oh, jeez.
They would decimate towns and churches and stuff like that.
Where you
He's
going,
running
Michael?
away.
No, I'm good. Grab a drink. You guys want anything?
Yeah, we grab me one too.
Yeah, sure.
I'm an alcoholic.
Sure, whatever you grab me. Whatever you grab me is fine. Too hot, Mikey?
It's a heated discussion.
Nice.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So,
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I want to ask some questions.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm
No, you're good.
famous for tangents.
No, you're great. So obviously you have an interest in what you're, doing with your podcast and how you got started into that. And I'm assuming probably had the same kind of exposure as a child, saw movies, read books, had the familiar somebody or other that maybe gave some credence to a story, etc. Is that close to accurate, or what got you?
Mine may be exactly opposite of what you just said.
Okay.
We didn't believe in Bigfoot. I was always going to school. And this is my story. Sorry, I always cut Jay off first. He's used to it by now.
Did you grab me a drink?
Oh wait.
You're good.
I'm sorry. You say you wanted a LaCroix?
What? No, grab me something. Whatever.
Grab
You
it.
have,
That
seltzer.
bottle of
Say what you
Jameson.
wanted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get the bottle
Thanks,
of
Kyle.
Jameson.
Topo Chico.
Hell yeah.
That's booze.
Go ahead, sir.
Oh, so I was always going to be a biologist. I always wanted that. Like I was a weird kid, and I wanted to work with the federal biological agency and stuff like that. I ended up doing that. I did make that. Biologists don't believe in Bigfoot.
Yeah. For them,
They don't. Like,
Dr. Jeff Meldrin is about the only one.
it's rare,
Yeah.
and even I think his views on Sasquatch can be very limiting too. But he's the only one that's doing real work.
Right.
I mean, he's doing actual amazing work in it. But he's kind of famous for the nothing over 18-inch track and stuff like that. And so we had in 2011 a Bigfoot encounter. And I'll give you the short version because it was over 2 summers. We had first summer, real light stuff was happening.
You say just around Ada, you're saying.
So my family.
Oh, your family.
We had
okay.
a large farm. We had one, and we were part of one of the biggest woods in Hardin County.
Okay.
So we actually had some tree cover. So let's say we had 15 acres of pasture and fence and stuff like that. And then we had 45 acres of this chunk of woods we owned, plus this giant woods that was attached to the stuff we didn't own.
And you just revealed to me today that there was a fresh spring back there.
There's a lot of them. We fell in one.
So how many acres in total?
It's hard because it's not. It's a very. You've seen everybody at home's maybe not seen it, but
Right.
very zigzaggy woods. But it's
Yeah.
just very wide for a Northwest Ohio woods.
Yeah. But
I'm
big
going to
enough.
say 400 or 500 acres.
That's a pretty good chunk.
It's
Yeah,
the largest
yeah.
one in our county by a long shot.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
We owned a section of it. We had the first year, let's say May to October, tree stacks in our yard, and we thought it was each other. I have 3 biological siblings, 2 adopted siblings. We all had our own farm projects.
In tree stacks in
In the
shapes?
fences. No, so we'd have garbage and stuff from the property shoved in piles in random locations around the farm. And it made no sense. And we thought we were screwing with each other. We thought, okay, Luke's screwing with me.
made a pile of leaves or branches or
No, 2x4s, buckets. I'm saying, randomly, whatever you could pick up walking around a farm.
And
it was
would-
probably in one of these stacks at one
Right.
point. And that happened all summer. And then I had basically what was a wood knocking event that was coming at me. The dogs are freaked out. My buddy Nick, his dad, was our neighbor from kind of our country neighbor. So we couldn't see his house, but he came, checked the house out. There was knuckle marks like 8 foot off the ground on the barn where the thing was punching the barn. The horses actually broke out. It scared the horses so bad.
Wow.
So then, like October, all stopped. All the weirdness stopped. Go all the way back again to May. I bred competitive chickens. That's going to sound weird. I told you I was a weird kid.
Vietnamese lungworms and competitive chickens.
4-H, right? Were you in 4-H?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
our buddy raised
grew up in
pigs
4-H,
and cows.
So
and
I
stuff.
had some chickens that
Goats.
were worth $900 a
Sheep.
piece. I bred for
Yeah,
fancy
yeah,
show.
dude. Yes.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying.
money.
But I had $2 chickens too. So
Just
You got a wide variety of
Yeah.
chickens.
I got
different
$2
prices.
chickens too.
I got
Well,
$90
we like the eggs,
chickens.
meat,
I
and
got
stuff.
$2 chickens.
Oh.
some of these chickens are $900. So they were basically in Fort Knox for chickens with electrified fence, all this stuff, and it's like a house
Damn.
because they made money. They were
Yeah,
profitable
yeah.
birds.
Right.
So we
Good
couldn't
genetics.
lose if you lost one of these to a raccoon. That's almost you can lose almost $1,000 plus the breeding potential.
Yeah.
You lose your $2 chicken, it doesn't matter.
Right.
They're going to hatch more out. It doesn't,
Right.
it's not that big a deal. So we had these chickens go missing, and they weren't being killed in the coop; they were being taken. So this coop had a door, and this gigantic lid to get to the eggs. You had to be a person to get into this thing. Like that's the only way you could have done it. Like the fence is electrified. Every little nook and cranny there was electric wire running all the way around it. So let's say a fox tried to get up in one of the corners. So foxes in the Ys of the top of the barns, and raccoons will try to get up in these corners. So we had electric wire running through there. So they stuck their snout in there.
You're
It's
getting
gonna fry
zapped.
'em.
Yeah.
Those chickens are going missing. So we went and bought a monster. We bought a red healer from the Amish. Her name was Lucy. She was the devil.
Yeah. Stoner has a blue healer.
Yeah, they're evil, aren't they?
He's nodding.
Yeah.
Cuba, what's
They have a
up,
job.
buddy? Oh yeah, they're very focused.
So
Hyper
she
focused.
learned. Yeah. So she would, this giant farm we had, she would never go in the woods. She'd walk this edge line constantly.
Just
Yeah.
patrolling.
Yeah. And she'd killed, like, one day, me and my mom, she'd come up back to the house covered in blood, this dog. We're like, oh gosh, something got this dog about dead. Couldn't find a scratch on her.
Yeah.
Killed 2 coyotes. Just ripped them apart.
Damn.
And everything had to be in the barn at night. She'd put everybody in. This is kind of a fun story. My mom went to open the barn and let everybody out in the morning. A bunch of deer ran out. They had gotten to the pasture, and
she
she's
put
like,
'em
you're going
in.
in the barn. If you're going to act like a horse, you're going in with
Put
the
him
horses.
in the barn with him. That's awesome.
So
Damn.
Lucy was this monster. But the problem that would happen is that, so I kind of left out. I'm trying to give the short version of the story. My dad installed big stadium lights around the property because me and my mom showed horses. So we'd work the horses at night so they wouldn't overheat, that kind of stuff. It's just easier to work an animal.
Sure.
So they don't horses overheat super easy.
Yeah.
And once they overheat, they can die very quickly. They have a lot of trouble cooling back down. So we just work them at night. And we had these big horse trails and 4-wheeler trails cut into the woods so there'd be no trees. So Lucy'd walk around at night. The only problem she'd have is something wouldn't run all the way into the woods. If it went up a tree on the edge, she'd bark all night.
Couldn't take it.
Yeah.
She thought you're coming down here and you're going to be in my
either,
yard.
Yeah, you should have ran into the woods. You should have gone back.
Wow.
So me and my brother would have to go down and knock him out with baseball bats and club. Just because if she didn't kill it, she wasn't going to shut up.
Yeah.
So we go down, and Lucy's just standing there on the edge, barking like she does a bunch of times. And she's looking straight up. But the weird thing is she's standing in one of these 4-wheeler trails. So there's no trees. So that's like, what is it? And then me and Luke are about 30 feet away from Lucy. And we both just stopped by. I said, Luke, stop. These giant chartreuse eyes, 3-4 inches apart, are looking down at Lucy. Blink real slow. Blink real slow. Blink, and then staring right at me and Luke.
Damn.
And I was like, we were shaking, and I was like, don't turn your back, don't run. That made it for like 10 feet. And then we came in the house crying. I was 17 at this point.
Right. Shook you to the core, though.
Yeah, so my dad was done. We'd been on the assumption this was a man the entire time, screwing with us, destroying property.
Right.
This is a man. So Dad gets the gun, and me and Luke stand on the front porch, and he walks down, and Lucy's still standing right in that same spot, barking. Dad's like, you mother effer, you coming out right now. You've scared my kids. You tortured us for 2 years. We're done with this. I'm going to start shooting in the woods. Count 1, 2, 3 kind of deal. Nobody came out.
Yeah.
So Dad's like, all right. And Dad pointed to the top of the trees and shot. Instantly, just like 10 feet from him, like a bison was ripping through the woods.
Just took
straight
off.
line. And he fell backwards. He ran up the house. All he would say is, "Oh, it wasn't a man. It
It's
just
just
wasn't a man."
big, something big, like
So
to make that.
we actually seen
sound.
the outline. I never seen like any detail, but just monstrous, just hulking. And we went back the next day, measured like 7 foot tall, and we actually ended up moving out of that property.
Yeah.
That year.
Did you ever go back into the woods after that happened and see?
No.
No, like I
No.
mean, like
Yeah, no,
go
we
in
weren't.
daylight and
Did
see
you
the
get a
trail or
sense
the
that-
path if he had, or
So then we didn't talk about this
Yeah.
for like 5 years. Finding Bigfoot in Mountain Monsters. I know Mountain Monsters Goofy Show. We're actually really good friends with Wild Bill.
He's
Yeah.
a trip. He's a trip.
He's going ice fishing with us in a couple months.
nice.
And that's kind of weird for me as a kid, or looking back as a kid. Like, I didn't know I was going to go fishing with this guy. But, like, those shows, even though being goofy and fun, we're like, okay, other people see this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's the really long way to answer your question is, no, I didn't believe in Bigfoot. I seen Bigfoot, didn't believe in Bigfoot because I wasn't supposed to because of the field I was going into.
Right.
And then it
being a
So
biologist.
talk about it
you
again.
had a personal encounter and still tried to deny it.
Yeah, just anything.
Wow.
It was
logical. Your logical mind
Trying
kicks
to
in.
not supposed
rationalize
to.
it.
But
There's
now
no
I
way
did a
that-
job, or I did endangered species surveys. I looked for animals that we had DNA markers saying, yeah, they're there, and we couldn't find them. So now
Right,
it makes
right,
more
right.
sense later
Right.
on, but it's just like, yeah.
Right, and that's what's always brought up too is like we haven't found one, we haven't brought a body out, et cetera.
Go
et
find a
cetera.
grizzly bear carcass.
Exactly the same thing, right?
You're not going to find one.
Right, a panther,
No.
a tiger.
Oh,
a lion,
gosh, you're not finding a cat.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Nope.
So,
this is an intelligent creature.
I have a friend
doesn't
that's a
wanna be
big cat
found.
biologist.
Yeah.
And she had a radio, so she darted a cat, mountain lion, had a collar on it, never found the cat again. It has a radio transmitter on it, could never find it again, because it would never let her get close to it again,
Wow.
Mm.
ever.
Just catch her scent and
And then
gone.
finally the battery wore off.
Yeah,
Yeah, gone.
That's
Never
wild.
found that cat again.
that's wild.
So you have an animal that's smart, cat,
yeah.
that has a radio transducer on it that tells you it's right there.
Yeah.
It's right over there.
You can't get
And you
it.
can't find it because
Yeah.
it doesn't want you to find it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's well, and then if you go into the even crazier parts of it with the whole Bruce Maccabee and the Predator Bigfoot, and I've heard a couple of different stories now, especially from the Merkel podcast, the one where I think it was a
Confessionals.
guy who was a
Hi, Tony.
Hello, Tony.
he was like a 1%er biker member. He was a pretty tough guy, right? He was on the run, right? And so he was hiding out at his girlfriend's father's property, if I remember the story correctly. And they lived in like southern Indiana, close to Ohio, et cetera. And like
It's
the
wild
woods.
down there.
Mhm.
Southern
And this
Illinois,
guy-
southern Indiana, dude.
This
It's-
guy had been going out and digging arrowheads and selling those to make some money. Like, you know, there were some mounds around, et cetera. So he's out in the woods one day and he started seeing the shape and he's like, oh God, they found me. The cops found me. And he's like, but it didn't make sense. And the reason it didn't make sense was because he was like, they sent the biggest hulking 6'7", 8 foot tall guy to come out and find me. Right. Like he could see him darting around the yard and he was just like, what the? So he hid out in the woods for the entire night. Right. And comes back in later. And that didn't scare him off that bad yet, right? He just thought, okay, I don't know what that was, but I guess it wasn't the cops. They're not here. And then later on, like, I don't know if it was days later, weeks later, he's out in the woods and it became his father-in-law. But he said at the time, he was like, you know, there's just strange stuff out here. It's a little different out here. Like kind of just framed it that way. You know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've never walked into an area or been in an area like that, but I'm going to take it seriously the next time if it ever happens. Somebody says it to me. And so this guy's out digging his arrowheads again, and he like looks off in the woods and he sees the predator cloaked, and he's just like, "What am I? You know, your brain's just struggling to figure out what's going on." And he said that thing, once it recognized that he saw it, was gone, just gone, like just trees swaying, just gone,
That's craziness.
and takes off as fast, you know, just unbelievably fast. And you know, like I always just joke that like Bigfoot's like 4-wheel drive. It's like a tank going through the woods at like Ferrari
And they
speed.
can
Yeah,
do
they
it
want to.
fast.
Like that one was gone that we had.
Yeah.
Because
Just their stride alone.
yeah.
Like
I mean, yeah,
being
they're
that
big animal.
tall, it's like,
that's one of the benefits of being big. We just did an episode on gigantism.
Deep
and
s-
they
yeah.
Jeep sees gigantism
Yep.
specifically. But long distance travel is one of the biggest reasons for animals to get big. It's because it's easier. You spend
you think
less
they got a big
calories
range.
to move farther.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of that sounds kind of weird.
So do
but
you think Bigfoot are traveling all over Ohio?
We did
Do
a
you think
whole
they're
big
moving?
episode
Yeah.
of migration districts
Okay.
of the U.S. We broke it down.
Do you think they're just coming from all over and passing through?
I think there's zones.
Okay.
So
okay,
if you're in this blob, there's not really shape to them. It's more geographical and food source shaped.
Right.
It's not. These things don't care about the cold.
Right.
So the people get hung up on the word migration because they think it means moving from the cold to the warm. They do not care. It's about available food source.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The same reason we moved.
Sure.
When we were more nomadic species.
Yeah.
We would move around to follow that food source.
Yep.
So what's special about Northwest Ohio is almost all of our Bigfoot sightings are in the spring and in the fall for about 2 weeks each time.
Oh.
Because they're
so-
not hanging out. There's no
passing
cover,
through.
Especially
there's
Northwest
no food.
Ohio.
I'm talking about Northwest Ohio.
Okay.
They're going down to southern
Super flat.
Ohio,
Right. Like
and then they're coming from
Cambridge,
Michigan.
north of
Yeah.
Cambridge,
Okay.
down to
They're just going
Athens.
through our area seasonally because they're going from one living area to the next living area. We don't have a lot of cover, and we actually know stories. We know people. They're like, yeah, they hang out on our property for like a week every year. We have an apple orchard, so they'll be here
Leave them
and
some treats.
so they'll go through and pick all the apples,
Yeah.
but leave some trees
Yeah,
for them,
yeah.
and they will be picked clean.
Wow.
But they're only there for a week.
Have
Because
you guys ever thought about camping out through that week?
we've worked on it. It's kind of a thing that we've been working on for a couple years.
to
It's,
see if they would allow you to do it? Or?
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
very.
Working on them bit by bit.
They
Again,
don't. Yeah,
and
they
not
don't want to
in a-
lose that. They have a lot of respect for their
Sure.
Sasquatch, and that's
Sure.
more what they're worried about.
100%. And that's why I should always kind of preface those things of like, first and foremost, preserving it, right? Not perverting those things
Yes.
and being able.
Yeah.
But it's more of just, I don't know. It feels like they're on that other. I just want to know,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Like that's
like-
the struggle.
Like Wilson from Home Improvement. You just
Yes.
want to see his mouth so bad, but
Yes.
you know
yes.
if you do, it'll just ruin the
It'll ru-
whole.
Maybe that's the thing.
Yeah.
So they migrate. I believe our population that we have in Ohio is at least the majority of Ohio. We're sharing with the lower end of Peninsula, or the lower end of Michigan, and a little bit of Indiana, and most of Ohio is sharing the same group of animals, the same genetic pool. Whether that's 300, whether that's 10,000, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a harder number to get. But I think that's your same group of animals.
Even if it's in the hundreds, that's remarkable.
Yeah.
You
so
know,
if we
I
look
always
at,
thought of like Bigfoot in, like you really hear the stories, like of course the Grassman Triangle, where Minerva is, just north of Cambridge, but then all the way to Athens. We met Dusty Ruth, Bigfoot researcher from Cleveland, at the Friends of the Serpent Mound Summer Solstice event this past summer. And I believe he might have just wrapped up his research, but there were so many people down in Adams County near Serpent Mound, farmers, because there's a lot of farmland and it's hilly, but that crater causes those river valleys and the hills. So there is a lot of woods, but there's also farmland too. So you wouldn't think of that area as a Bigfoot hotspot. But Dusty just keeps getting all these calls right around the Serpent Mound impact crater area. And he's been down there. He's like, there is 100% evidence that there are multiple Bigfoot moving through this area. And I think he spent like all summer in Adams County just poking around and researching. So there's so many areas, like you think of Western Ohio or Eastern Ohio, Southern Ohio, and people think that Ohio's a bunch of farms and cornfields,
Half of
like
it
where
is.
we grew up.
yeah.
A
It's almost
ton
that
of
line.
it
Yeah.
is. I mean,
I
we
mean,
have the
the
Wayne
glacier line.
National Forest, Cuyahoga National Valley,
Yeah.
Mohican State Park. I mean,
Mohican
all
Susan.
of Athens. I mean, it's a pretty damn. I mean, you got Old Man's Cave and Hocking Hills, the whole region. We have so many rivers.
Oh yeah.
And so we don't have a ton of lakes like in Michigan and Wisconsin or Wisconsin, Minnesota, but we got a ton of rivers, man. And that's why the earthworks and the temple building here in ancient times was those river systems were just highways.
Right.
So
And
why wouldn't
it's easy to move.
Sasquatch be moving
I
around
100%
on those?
think they use. So you know what's special about Hardin County? Why? So that year, 2011, had a ton of sightings. We didn't have any after. We didn't have any before. So what's special about Hardin County? Why would they be passing through there? It is where the Lake Erie River watershed
Okay.
and the Scioto River watershed get the closest. So if you're using the waterway to navigate, you only have to walk 100-yard farm to get from one major waterway map to the next.
Right.
Okay.
So
That's why
you've
they're
got
being funneled
watersheds.
there, and then they're being funneled back out. And then but when you get through Hardin County, you have the Great Miami, the Little Miami, and the Scioto.
Yep.
You can go anywhere in Ohio off of those.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you're, I really
takes you
think
right down to the Ohio River. All those.
one of the really cool things we had is from doing this show. Greg,
Yeah.
guy known all my life. Great friends with my dad.
Both of us.
Yeah, great friends with both of us. Just all our life. Really big guy. He never knew I had a Bigfoot encounter, and I never knew he had one.
Okay.
And he has probably one of the best ones ever. He basically thought it was a cow. That's the name of the episode. I thought it was a cow. Because, well, that day,
Wow.
there were cows out in that area. So he was coming back through, and there was something in the ditch. And he's like, okay, it's one of these big hairy thing. It's one of these cows. So he's actually slowing down. He's going to get out and help get the cow back in. And it was a big, and he has a really incredible encounter. He actually came in the studio and told it. He does it. It's his story. It's a lot better. But that's basically, he got really close.
Really great encounter. Really, like, detailed.
But he's seen it in 2011 about a quarter mile from where our farm was. It was probably the same animal is what I'm getting at.
Right.
So what I think for Northwest Ohio, why my encounter, why he was staying there during the summer when he shouldn't have been, there was all these farms around there. He was eating grain out of our bins.
Right.
He was eating chickens, and then but he's doing it to all these farms. He was 7 foot tall is the one that we've seen, and that's Greg's was 7 foot tall. Very muscular. I think he was a juvenile male. I keep calling him a he, so I think he was a juvenile male, and he didn't want to walk anymore. He's like, there's food here, Mom and Dad. Why am I walking all the way down to Hocking Hills?
Yeah.
Like, there's no point. Why am I doing this? And, basically, humans are real dangerous. You shouldn't stay around. There's not a lot of cover here. Like, whatever.
Farmland.
So Dad shot at him, quote unquote, and that was it. Okay, humans are scary.
He figured it
Yeah,
out.
it's time to. I'll walk down to Hocking next year.
He was screwing around with you guys at first, and then he got a little lesson.
So I really think that dog, Lucy, was about 2 seconds from not being a dog anymore.
Yeah.
Because she was not letting him get back into the barn where he was taking all the horse grain. Horse grain's basically molasses. So it's sweet. Sugar.
Right.
So I kind of left that out, but he was stealing hundreds of pounds of that over the years.
Oh, so you think the dog finally caught him in the act?
Well, yeah, he was. I think he was super mad he couldn't go in the yard anymore. So I think he was literally. So Bigfoot and dogs is a famous thing, and it never goes good for the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I really think she was about 2 seconds from not being a dog.
Wow.
Because they look at it like, I'm just going to do whatever I want.
Well, you're the thing stopping me from getting what I want.
Yeah.
And he's a lot bigger than that dog.
And it won't shut up. And now
Yeah.
everybody knows I'm out here.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
But I guess I kind of talked over Jay. Jay, I don't know. Do you have anybody do that for you?
Do what?
Like, get you into this stuff? Or
No, I just think I grew up just very interested in a lot of just weird and different things.
Yeah.
Like, just that kid.
Yep.
I was always into the weird stuff. So, and I always have an open mind, I think, to everything. So, I don't know. It was something that was always, I had interest in, but I just never really have explored a whole lot, but I believed in it. I always believed in all the weird stuff. So,
Right.
So I came from that angle, just open mind, believe in anything, especially Bigfoot. I love Bigfoot stories, but I never pursued it like deep like we do now, for sure.
like we do now is a whole different thing.
A whole different thing, yeah. But I like the stories, and I like good stories.
Yeah. I feel like starting out younger, I thought about Bigfoot and being real. And then as I got older, discounted it like there's no way. And then came back around to it because I just listened to so many stories of people that are credible eyewitnesses, hunters, like people that are in the woods, more than
police
I am
officers,
ever,
rangers,
park rangers, etc. The Micah Hanks talking about the rangers in the national forest that would go up to the all certain parts of the park where if people were hunting illegally or they were camping off grid or just trying to hide out. Those stories of when he would say he would see basically Sasquatch running in these valleys and stuff. I was like, it makes sense. I mean, you talk about national parks, that's humongous real estate.
Oh yeah,
where no
space
people
like
are.
that. Right, right. But it's funny. A couple of years ago, we were in Sequoia National Park, and I heard on 2 different days trees go over. not a sequoia, but a big enough tree that like it felt like the ground shaking and rumbling. So I was like, oh, okay. Never knew that was also a part of a Sasquatch trait from time to time to just knock trees over. Now, again, it wasn't a sequoia, one of the massive ones,
a
but
300-foot tree.
There was something going down that was definitely big enough falling that it was like, what was it? I just never put two and two together. Not saying I had an encounter, but
something odd was happening for sure.
And being aware of those little things, like if I heard tree knocks as a kid, I never knew it. I didn't know what it was, so I might have heard it and just never had an idea about it, right? But as I got older, I was like, no, like there seems like there's more to this, right? Like I don't know.
You guys ever heard of Mohican Susan?
No.
A good friend of ours.
Yeah. Really great person.
I think we're gonna go hang out with her in the spring. She's out of Mohican. She's not a Mohican, but she's out of Mohican. She got famous just kind of a couple months ago for having the best new vocalization recordings.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Really?
What did she have? She had like 1.4 billion clicks in like the first week.
Oh, shoot. I don't know.
Remember she was showing us, she's like, I don't understand these numbers.
Would she upload it to YouTube?
No, and like just in global, like she has people that, like work, like help her out and stuff like. So global shares of like this one story was like astronomical.
Wow.
And because she had really good stuff, she had amazing stuff, and but she was one talking to us about sound. So like we were getting at is that she was talking about like we were all kind of talking about it, but the mimicking of animals, of not people but animals.
But like coyotes and stuff.
Owls is the big one.
Yeah.
And it says like if it sounds like an owl, but it sounds like you mimicking an owl.
Yeah.
It's probably not an owl.
That's a good point.
Because they don't do a great job sometimes, but they do it enough to where if you're not paying attention,
dude,
you're not thinking about it.
That's what I'm saying.
That's an owl. How cool.
There's a pretty odd story. Remember the same night our friend dumped the pizza in the oven? That was after the awesome night that we had outside. This guy started a fire in the middle of December.
Oh, God.
Yeah. When, I mean, great. It was like the logs were wet. Somehow he got this fire going. Like, would not give up on it. And it was so cold. So, like, we needed this fire. But we didn't want to go back inside. Because, we're having our Brozone session, locking in with each other. And then we just start hearing this owl out in the distance, which our buddy attracts owls. Yeah. I've seen it.
The guy that did all this artwork.
Does he call them in, or do they just kind of come to him?
Kind of just flock to him.
Okay.
Yeah. Roa, Fifth Element Tattoo Gallery here down the road is a bird magnet. Like, he's just a bird guy. They'll land in his backyard. Like, crows will just, he's able to, like, get feathers just out of the blue from, like, the wildest animal, like the wildest birds. He's just, they're always around him. I mean, at my house that night when we were hanging out with him.
With the owl.
I
right by
never
us. We were waiting to make a decision.
I lived there for 7 years and never had an owl at my house, my old house before we moved 3 years ago. Never seen an owl, never heard an owl. And we're sitting, hanging out. It's like, hey, let's go get some fresh air. Have no clue why we even went outside, just went outside. And this thing just flew in, silent as can be. And Ro was like, ow. I'm like, dude.
Yeah, but we were also making a decision, like, should or should we not do whatever we were planning on? And all of a sudden, like, owl flew by, and we're like,
yeah, we're doing that.
Okay, we're doing that.
Yeah.
And
it was wild.
Flew by silently, but that night, so he gets out this little Native American flute, and he starts calling back to this owl.
Oh, yeah.
Woo, woo, with the flute. And this thing starts talking back, starts mimicking back the flute.
Mm-hmm.
So, wild.
Was it an owl?
Yeah, was it an owl?
Never thought about that.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like...
This is Serpent Mound area.
This is the Serpent Mound area.
Never thought about that.
And he was basically like communicating with this thing, and it was calling back with him.
Yeah.
And we're just like, dude, it was really, really freaky. I mean...
That was the night of the
didn't surprise
pizza,
me. Yeah, that was the night of the pizza debacle.
That's wild.
But that makes me think of, I mean, you saying that, and because it was mimicking back and forth. Again, not saying we had a Bigfoot encounter or an experience, but it more than likely was.
But here's the crazier part too: is that I don't know that I ever I joke like, yeah, I want to see a ghost or this. No, I don't. Like, I've seen a couple things already that I don't want to see again. Like, so it's tough. Like, do I want to see a Bigfoot? Do I want to? if I could say I want the experience you had where nobody got hurt or this or that, and it took
Looking
Yeah.
back, I don't
But
think
do
we
I-
were in any danger. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I've
to
heard
have-
some bad stories.
Okay, so when we had DA on the other week,
Yeah.
and he broke into this story talking about Teddy Roosevelt
Oh yeah.
and Bauman, the Bauman story. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this.
The hermit that Teddy talked to, is that one that he recorded?
It's apparently he wrote this book. It was a collection of stories of him hunting in the wilderness.
Yeah.
But also in this book, he added a story that
Yes.
he didn't identify himself in, but he identified 2 other people.
Mm-hmm.
And he identified this one guy, Bauman, right? And
Yeah.
Supposedly you respected him enough you believed his story.
Yeah. That guy. That's the guy, right?
DA's theory is that Teddy is Bauman.
Oh.
Gotcha.
Because
Teddy actually had the experience.
You're including in your book,
Someone else's account.
right, but you're also a hunter, a this, a that. You had political aspirations. You don't want
And
to.
he was out deep in those woods.
But the story's wild, yeah. Like I think his friend that was on the hunt with him ended up getting killed by Bigfoot
Yeah.
on that like hunt, basically. But
That's the
yeah,
story.
and I mean, and then what he asked next, he said, "What happened after that?" He established the national parks.
yeah.
Mm.
Well,
And then
he was
called
also
it
kidnapped.
a cryptid reserve.
Teddy Roosevelt
Yeah, he
was.
got kidnapped.
Okay.
That's right. How he established national parks. It's kind of a story for what I used to do. Like everybody knows that. He got kidnapped by the Redwood Preserving Group.
Did not know that.
They took him away from the Secret Service. They pulled him up into the top of Redwood and stayed the night up there.
Wow.
And when he came back down, so that was at
He's
the
like,
end.
"I
And then
have to do this."
What a great move by them.
Because
though.
they showed him, they could see the edge line of where the redwoods were dying from people cutting them down.
Oh.
Right.
And they stayed up night and talked to him all night. And the Secret Service was panicking down. They had no ropes to get up there. Had no equipment.
Well, you're hundreds of
Yeah,
feet
so
up.
Teddy Roosevelt was the only president to ever get kidnapped with no charges being pressed.
That's great.
Yeah, he got kidnapped.
But hey, for a good
For
cause
a good
there.
cause, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because but he also Teddy Roosevelt. We talk about him a lot. He pops up all kinds of weird places. He
Yeah,
left
he's
his
Interesting
campaign.
fellow.
Yeah.
He left his campaigning trail to hunt the snallygaster.
What?
That is politically documented.
What is that?
A giant yellow flying creature with tendrils on its face. Imagine like a dragon, but slimy and yellow, with like tentacles hanging off its face.
This is a real thing?
Well, he went and shot
cryptid.
one. So
He left a campaign trail.
he left
to
trying to become
pursue.
president for 2 weeks to go hunt this thing.
But he never got one.
So it did die. Somebody drank a bunch of moonshine or got into mash and died.
This is a real animal?
Yes, no.
It's
a
like Bigfoot.
Like
cryptid.
Bigfoot.
It's a cryptid.
They don't know for sure, Bub. I mean,
But
it's
it
like the
talked about it.
Flatwoods monster, or
There was a lot of political talk about the snallygaster, and then it disappeared.
So we drive around
never heard
Northwest
of that.
or Ohio
Oh,
in
yeah.
general. You ever see like those weird things on barns, like big painted, almost like quilt shaped or quilt designed tapestries?
yeah.
So those were first put on barns to ward off the snallygaster,
The
Really?
snallygeist. The schnallergeist.
which is a German.
German, right? That part, absolutely. A lot of German settlers early.
Quick
in
spirit. They
Ohio.
drank milk and blood.
That was
I've
the
never
legend.
heard of this. That's great.
Yeah. That's
great.
basically, so there was a, now I can't remember, so we did the snallygaster a while ago, but the mega barn that was built to defeat the snallygaster,
The mega barn.
the whole valley was losing its livestock.
Was it a valley or a whole county?
A county, something like that. I can't remember. So now
It's been a while.
I don't remember fully what it was.
We have to re-listen to some of our episodes.
Yeah. But
Re-educate
basically,
ourselves.
this large group of people were losing so much livestock every night. They weren't going to survive. Like, literally, they weren't going to survive. They couldn't leave because they had nothing to go.
Yeah.
So they pitched in and built this mega barn to keep all their livestock in together at night. Because if they could light it up enough, the snallygaster would leave it alone. But you couldn't do it at a single home.
Right.
Ended up not working. But they put the snallygeist seals on after the snallygaster was inside eating the livestock. And they sealed it in there, and apparently it starved to death. Or that one did. Because it did kill everything in there. But they sealed it inside, so now it couldn't get out.
Wow.
And I
never
think
heard
that
of the
barn's still standing,
snallygaster.
right?
No idea.
We talked about it. I can't remember.
No idea.
That's cool. That's cool. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, so Teddy Roosevelt has a long history with cryptids.
Dude, he's
Might be the-
he's in deep. I mean, that guy was a legit explorer, though, too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a different era.
Piranhas. One
Back
of our
then-
first descriptions of piranhas came from Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh, really?
A lot of those
Yeah.
guys, those explorers, were all like former captains in the military. the guy that basically started the whole Bureau of Ethnology of the Smithsonian, Powell, John Wesley Powell. He was a colonel. He explored, one of the first explorers into the Grand Canyon. I mean, that guy was a legit badass. He lost an eye out there exploring.
Well, you still need that
And
competitive.
but those guys,
drive and that.
Teddy Roosevelt types back then, they were real men, man. Those guys were packing supplies on mules.
Oh yeah,
and getting in deep and exploring America.
how the word teddy bear came to be?
Probably from Teddy Roosevelt, right?
But do you know what's the story behind it?
No.
He went out while he was president for a grizzly bear hunt.
He fought a grizzly bear, right?
Not in this story.
Okay.
But
In the other one.
he wanted to hunt a grizzly bear while he was president. The Secret Service did not want to let him.
Sounds reasonable.
They basically signed it up to where they had a grizzly bear chained to a tree where he was going out so he could go shoot one. And he refused. He's like, this. He made him release the animal. He's like, this is not hunting. This is just,
This is stupid and cruel.
Yeah.
And so that story got out, and they just basically made the teddy bear off of that. They called Teddy Roosevelt the teddy bear. Not because of, not demeaning or anything like that. Just saying, like, he had so much pride for the sport that he's just not going out there to kill something. That's not the point.
But I think it's kind of a cool homage of, like, it's on the nose.
Yeah.
There's a love for it.
Yes.
Right? So a teddy bear.
A soft side to it.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
It, is
It's not
he
just
wasn't
like,
a monster.
We can go kill this thing tied to a tree. No.
The hunt is part of it.
Right.
Being out in
Absolutely.
nature and dealing with it.
The
Right.
process of getting an animal to go feed your family or your village, like, that's that primal feeling. Like, if you're a real outdoorsman, you're not going to shoot some bear tied up to a tree.
I mean,
No.
Teddy Roosevelt, that's not badass enough for Teddy Roosevelt.
it's like Tyrannosaurus Rex in Jurassic Park. He doesn't want that goat on a leash.
No. It wants the
Wants to
people in
hunt
that
it.
car.
Yeah. Wants that lawyer.
Oh, yeah.
Love it. That's craziness.
He's also famous. So one of the first actual depictions we had from piranhas from South America into the North America like mindset was kind of a lie that was told to Teddy Roosevelt. Well, by that I mean they had these piranhas in a tank, and they didn't feed them for a long, long time. So when Teddy came in, they're like, "This is a piranha." They threw a calf in there, and they were starving animals. So they viciously ripped apart the calf and stuff like that. And he's like, "Oh, so this is how piranhas are out here."
right.
And so he came back, was telling, like, these things are, vicious fish. Like, they're little, but they'll rip anything apart. And, I mean, Jeremy Wade, if you ever watch any of his stuff, like, they are not the bloodthirsty killers. They're very skittish fish. But when anything that you keep in a tank and don't feed it for months.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's not an accurate portrayal of
Hunger changes something.
If it gets a little blood in the water, it's
yeah.
going to shred your
Have you
finger
seen
if
Alive?
you stick it in a tank. Didn't your brother used to have piranhas?
No.
No.
Okay. Saltwater fish a lot. Lots of different zoanthids and corals and
You used to have a piranha.
I used to have a bunch of piranha.
Or a pacu. Never mind. It was a pacu.
Oh, no, I did have a pacu.
And
That was a sad story.
He got ate by a snapping turtle.
oh god.
I grew this giant albino pacu up because I have an alligator snapping turtle. And I wanted fishing with the alligator snapping turtle, but you have to have them big enough for the alligator snapping turtle. I was not thinking about eating them. And I thought I did it, and I didn't.
I thought I did it.
And I'm like, well, there's 6 months of work down the drain.
He was like,
He ate
"Thank
him.
you for dinner."
Yeah.
Well, it's funny is because there's other fish in that tank that's the same size as that pacu, and never mess with
Right.
them. And pacu are a-holes. So I don't know if the pacu started a fight
Yeah.
that it could not win,
Yeah.
or if because like, it's just I don't know. That was a bad one.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a lot of money and time.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Big albino pacu.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's the head. That's all that was left.
I had a small saltwater tank, and somehow I was very novice at it. And the person at the pet store that I went to get this starfish from didn't let me know that starfish ate corals.
Oh yeah.
So I had corals in my tank they're expensive,
Mm-hmm.
and he ate about $400 worth. And I was like,
Oh.
I've never wanted to flush something down the toilet, but I brought him back to the store. I was like, you can have it, but I mean, I can't keep this.
He's bad.
Yeah, I mean, he was just, it tastes delicious. I'm like, no, my Recordia mushroom, god damn it.
Did you ever have any corals fighting?
Not me personally. My brother
different
probably
breeds.
did.
Yeah.
his
I mean,
brother's tank
that's
is
an
wild.
interesting.
People don't realize that those are animals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
that's a big thing that people look at it.
Weird
They
little worm.
they think it's more like a plant.
or even
no, it's-
selecting fish.
Oh, yeah.
that you put in together in a tropical tank or
Yeah.
a fresh one. I mean,
Coral's just a buildup of the calcium from
Yeah,
there.
grabbing stuff and making its own home.
Yeah, that's basically the like skeletal remains of it, kind of building out. Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen it. Not person. I used to work with. I worked in the same building that some of the Sea Grant people worked in.
Okay.
So they had videos of corals basically vomiting on each other to kill each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
It looks like white vomit going and burning the other corals. That's the whole point, is to burn off space.
See, this is the part I like. I don't know nothing. I know jack about any of this. And Justin teaches me all this like biology stuff. And I just soak it up like a sponge.
Velvet worms.
Yeah. Oh,
Velvet worms.
Oh, you ever know what a velvet worm is?
I think I've seen one.
You know what a velvet worm is?
No.
Okay, imagine a centipede, okay? Now make it squishy. No hard parts, no exoskeleton. Yep. So it looks just like a centipede, but it's actually more related to worms. Bright red, fire truck red. Venomous, poisonous, the whole 9 yards. So venom is injected, poison is on the surface, and you have to eat it.
Right.
And then they just throw up their guts onto prey and then suck them back in. So they throw their internal organs out. Or it's like a stringy soup. They throw it out, get you tangled up, and then suck you back in.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Nope.
I'm going to have to look up some videos of that.
They're wild little creatures.
Biology's weird.
Now, I got a question. I don't do this kind of stuff very often. Do we have anybody in here hanging out with us?
So, yeah, we have...
Kyle?
Sorry, I didn't mean to...
No, you're good.
I'm just curious.
You're good.
Justin Lamb, Stoner's dad, Neil. What's up,
Oh,
Neil?
Justin.
Shout out
Hey,
to
Justin.
Hey, Justin.
We know Justin Lamb.
Justin Lamb, that's one of your guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's getting
Super fan.
He's getting a T-shirt very soon.
Yes.
What's up, Justin? Welcome to the Cryptids of the Strange Corn Road SWAPCAST.
Strange Corn Road.
I love that. Once I texted that to him, and then when it was like I could see it in front of me, I'm like, that's great.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. And we got Andy.
Arugula?
Stone's girl, Andy.
Oh, I thought it
Okay.
was arugula.
Andy does all the, if you guys see like the illustrations on
Yes.
our previous episodes of our cartoon versions of ourselves and guests, Andy does all those illustrations.
Sweet.
Yeah, she's super talented.
I thought it was arugula.
And we
I was
had
real
Ricky
excited.
Maynard in here. He was at the bar tuning in for a little bit.
Nice.
Old Ricky. And then K-Street, K-S-T. K-Street. I see the serpent.
Well, welcome, everyone.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, this is super
100%.
fun. So where are you guys at with the giant skeletons?
Oh gosh, can I grab another beer?
Yes, of course.
It's Jay's turn.
Let's go.
It's Jay.
You've got the
Help
giant
yourself.
skeleton goods?
Well, I don't know if I have the goods, but it's definitely an interest of mine.
Do you guys follow Giants of America on Instagram at all?
Ooh, see, I don't
know if
have
you guys-
Instagram.
That's okay.
Same.
Know the Appalachian Giant, TJ.
TJ.
Handle and everything.
Okay.
The Appalachian Giant, TJ.
Okay.
I need a reminder. I'm bad with people. And
Our Hocking Hills Bigfoot Fest conference right next
oh,
to us.
TJ. Okay, yeah,
TJ.
I got one of his photographs hanging in my house.
Photographs of what?
He's a photographer.
Okay, sweet.
He has a pretty cool. He does work around like Mount Pleasant and
Yeah.
really good photographer. Really cool nature stuff. But bought
Nice.
one of his photos at the Hocking Hills Bigfoot conference. It was pretty good.
Awesome. I'd love to meet him.
But we did one episode on giants and stuff, but it's definitely more of an interest of mine than his. But, I mean, we were talking about this a couple weeks ago, actually. Like, what constitutes someone as a giant, in your definition?
Generally, it's
As a giant?
6, 7 sometimes gets brought into it, but I don't really consider
No,
that.
as in, so
I think
Not-
me and him definitely have different
That's like
opinions
the
on
Very
lowest
different.
Yeah.
because, and here's the reason why. They'll find these burials with someone that's around 6, 7,
Mhm.
but the people buried beneath them,
Mhm.
or like sometimes they'll be, sitting upright facing east is a
Right.
big one. You get a lot of that stuff. But basically much smaller people that are like 5'4", 5'3", kind of your traditional Native American,
Yeah.
what you would find in
Typically.
an average person.
a hunter-gatherer, exactly.
Mhm.
So you would have these kind of extra tall people, but then you have the big ones where it's like 8 foot tall, 9 foot tall, man buried with giant, huge 9-foot sword.
Spears.
huge-
Yeah,
The-
that's...
I think
the
those
helmet
are two
that can
different
fit.
things, in my opinion. That's what me and Jay kind of
Differ.
split.
Well, they could be hybrids
I think tall
too.
people are tall
Like-
people. Like, we know tall people.
Yeah.
For sure.
We grew up in the land of tall. We have,
TJ is literally what? How tall is he?
I don't know, 6. I don't know, 4
4
or 5.
Yeah. So like,
Tall guy.
but I think that when we talk about actually a giant, as in not a giant human, as in a different species.
that's exactly.
It's a hominoid, a different hominoid.
Yeah, whole
Hominid.
different animal than
Yeah.
we are.
Yep.
Very phenotypically the same
Well,
creature.
some of them have
Sure.
giant rows, extra rows of teeth.
Well, I can, after Jay
Uh,
goes, I can talk to you about that in a second.
Yeah, that's wild
'Cause
stuff.
There's reasons for that.
Yeah, they call it. There's a term for it. A lot of the double rows of teeth are out on the East Coast, where they find not so much earthworks, but they find these really weird, super advanced they call them rock piles. They basically, archaeology says that they're just these like discard piles, essentially, from colonists. But some of them, like the sun will come in, there'll be a little pool of water. They see them in Pennsylvania, but all through Rhode Island, Connecticut, and they're these chambers, these with megalithic stones that are coming together perfectly to make these roofs. And it's not shoddy masonry work.
Right.
These are not piles of stone.
Just thrown
But
together.
in those areas, that's where you find a lot of the double rows of teeth is more on the East Coast. But, there have been reports in Ohio. There's newspaper articles that we've seen from, like those old antiquarian journals. Have you found any of those on Google Books or anything? There are a lot of those online that are just like some old antiquarian guy writing in his journal.
Yeah.
Do you have any of Adam Benedict's books? Pine Bearing Institute, Adam Benedict.
Okay.
He did Oddities in Print and Monsters in Print.
Okay. No.
Just all collected all kinds of old newspaper clippings.
Oh,
We'll talk
really?
about it. It's
Okay.
great. We use it for the show.
That's great.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It's
I would
definitely
love to
books.
read
They're,
that.
and they're not that. I think they're what? The big one's $16, and I think the little one's like $14.
I mean, it's a lot of
But
material.
it's all like
it's-
town hall reports, newspaper clippings.
Just
and
newspaper clippings.
A clip. Like
Doesn't
a whole
say anything.
catalog.
Doesn't add anything.
Okay.
It's just the clipping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just as it
So
was
you can
reported.
do it
Yeah.
however you want to do it. Like
That's
that's what
great.
we like. It's like it's exactly. It's
And
not
on-
watered down. It's not. It doesn't have a previous notion established with it.
Of
just-
all kinds of different things, or
Depends on which book you
specifically-
get.
yeah.
So
Like-
Monsters in Print is biological creatures being seen.
Oh,
Okay.
Oddities in
cool.
Print is like the one's like 3 or 4 times the size of the rest of his books.
Just
There's
everything.
giants and poltergeist and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we
like,
need that.
Living clouds.
Oh, that's where you guys did a recent episode.
Living
Yeah.
clouds.
Man, that's tough to get for my brain. I'm pretty damn open-minded. The sky creature beast shit is odd.
Oh, come
I
on.
don't know if I can get
The
behind
sky
it, bro.
creature.
He definitely
beast
opened my
shit.
mind to it.
Come on.
I
We're
mean-
just talking about giants with double rows of teeth, and you can't.
But bro,
you can't an atmospheric
I mean,
jellyfish.
Well,
is
we
too
know
far.
there were giant people. I mean, we know
Yeah.
all like mammoths, rhinos. Here in the United States, we had a whole fauna
what you just
that
say,
went extinct after
They were
the
all
ice age.
quadrupeds.
Sure,
So
but
distribution
why
of
wouldn't
weight.
people grow that big? If we
Distribution
had
of
other,
weight. I'm not arguing. I do believe in
you
that they're
believe in
giant.
giants.
Yes.
Ah.
I'm just
But
saying
the
you got to look at that.
sky-
Is the distribution of weight is why those animals got monstrous.
But what are they doing in the sky? They're floating around. They're
Gas
flying.
filled.
They're gas
So,
giants.
Yeah,
let
they're
me
not
tell
heavy.
You, let me tell you
Okay.
the things that convinced me, because
Oh,
there's
gosh.
no way I believed in this.
Do you
until-
know about this subject?
No.
Sorry,
Phil
I didn't mean to get off
Bubbin
on
for-
giants.
No,
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 that's
no.
okay.
We can go
It's
back
okay.
to it.
'Cause
I'm
this is
more because
interesting.
this is.
because I could talk about this for about 18 hours.
Okay,
And you have.
let's strap
I
in.
have.
What convinced me is he told me about this NASA study they did in 2019. It was
Oh.
one of the latest ones. Is they searched for life up in the atmosphere, and
Extremophiles.
yeah, basically,
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
what we thought were,
They were looking for maybe to find 5 species. Like they were looking for extremophiles.
Yep.
and
Yep.
when they did the test, they came back with the results. They found every clade of life, of invertebrate life, that living in the atmosphere. So Justin
That's a
can explain that better.
that's a big thing to say.
So make that
They found
in layman's
first
terms.
off, right off the rip, over 4,000 species. They didn't know what to do with the study because it wasn't
Damn.
prepared for it. They were like, no, we're only supposed to find 4.
So that ranges from like plant,
Every biological clade of life
so
that's
fungus,
not a vertebrate
Okay.
has a representative in the upper atmosphere that we just barely found out about. That's jellyfish. That's fungi.
How?
That's bacteria. Well, there's several ways. Think about, okay,
The air is kind of like the water, but just a little bit less
that's the
dense.
big
The
thing.
jellyfish
It's the
move
exact
through
same.
40,
Right.
No, it has the
40 space.
Has the
No,
exact
they're
just
same,
gas
like the
filled.
air. Okay,
has the exact
but,
same makeup, right?
but
It's
like
water
in
in the
the
air.
sea,
So you know what
in
a
the
you know what-
water.
Ocean in the sky.
Do you know what a man of war is?
yes.
So that's a gas-filled sack they control.
Okay. It's
wait,
yeah,
what?
it's blowing up
That-
air
that
to
bubble on
move
its
it.
head?
Yeah.
That's actually a gas-filled sack to keep buoyant.
A man of war. The jellyfish.
It's not a jellyfish.
Yeah, it's
It's
Portuguese
actually a-
man of war
yeah.
isn't a jellyfish?
It's a cyanophore, which is it's a big word. I'm about to go off.
That's
Sorry.
okay.
yeah,
Don't worry about the big
strap in.
words. My first year of college was marine biology, although I didn't go to class
Okay,
often.
So a cyanophore,
But I still remember a lot about
It's not-
platyhelminthes and
it's not a
chondrichthyes
jellyfish.
and osteichthyes. And
it's a group of colonial organisms all holding on together to form one body.
oh, so it's like mushrooms.
No,
Mycelium connecting together. They're all one.
not really. It's a very different thing. It's like a whole bunch of little animals, like us. Like if we hold at arms and try to do something, that's what a cyanophore is. So some of these cyanophores are just for digestion. All they do is they give the rest of the body gives them their food. They break it down and redistribute it. Some of them are for steering. Some of them are for gas production. Some of them are just
I mean,
controlling.
that's kind of how we built up to where we are, right?
Exactly, but they never got out of that stage.
Yeah,
and
I'm
they
with you.
took
Right, they never
some
advanced.
of the craziest forms.
Okay.
I mean, there are things that look like sky in the bottom of the ocean. They look like these giant sky pigs with kites with metal chains and all. It's almost impossible to describe because what you're looking at, you're like, that can't be an animal.
In the water.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The
So
yeah.
how they get up there is blow-ups. And any mountain range pushes all kinds of nutrients into the upper atmosphere is what they found. There's actually a lot more food, and it's a lot warmer, and there's actually liquid water that we weren't expecting
where
in the upper atmosphere.
really?
So it's a petri dish. And it is one of the least impacted environments above the ozone layer. It's one of the least impacted environments for
So it's not where all the
international
pollution's
So it's super
collected.
clean.
below it.
It's just
So
below.
you're talking the pollution's below.
Okay.
We're talking above.
above.
So it's
like,
clean where it's at.
What is
It's
it?
like
Yeah, it has
untouched.
radiation, but life has already gotten over that.
Here's
the
thing.
radiation
This is interesting.
That high radiation being up there too is going to amplify cellular change and
So, but it can also cause a lot of cancer and stuff
Right.
like that. But jellyfish got rid of that a long time ago.
they don't get cancer.
Now, there's immortal jellyfish. You ever heard about those guys?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
live forever.
Well, they hit the reset button. Whenever they're too tore up or they're about to die, they become a zygote again and become another jellyfish.
They just
but it's
minimize
genetically
them.
the same thing.
So they just basically respawn.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Basically, I'm a baby now.
Beep.
you-
Reset
yeah.
button.
I'm a baby now.
Yeah. So, but we found those guys up there. They're at least representatives of their family group. There are jellyfish in the upper atmosphere that we have documented. And that's not as in the jellyfish you're expecting to see with these big gelatinous creatures like the. This is
floating
micro. Yeah, these are small animals that we found in this first study.
Microcryptids.
It happens a lot.
Orangutan.
I had a theory about this. Like, what if the Mothman is just microscopic? What if there's all kinds of microcryptids around us all right
All
now?
the time.
even?
Hmm.
Sure.
Yes.
I would believe it. Why not?
So,
Oh,
It's just
shit.
scale and perspective.
He goes-
but yeah, these creatures are sighted all the time. They probably are gas filled. We have buoyancy gas that we produce. A lot of animals use buoyancy in the water. They produce gases in their system
So-
to
Right,
create
right.
themselves to be negatively buoyant or positively buoyant.
Right, fish. the
Yeah. So
bladder
So check
line.
this out. Our friend David Lone Bear sent a pass. He's a Mi'kmaq elder, and he's been putting mylar balloons way up in the Earth's atmosphere.
Is something eating them?
He's
Jesus.
gone into. So we had a interview that kind of fell apart a little bit where we went to Maine to interview him, and we were going to get into some things that he's been capturing with these balloons that are highly rigged out with technology.
Mhm.
He's able. I'm not going to go into and how this technology is created or anything like that, but basically, he's capturing a lot of different things flying around up there,
Mm-hmm.
and things that also that I don't think he ever expected to find.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering,
Start
like,
shining that
are
flashlight
some
in
of
dark
these
places.
moving things? Because so he's going up. This NASA scientist did not believe that he was actually doing this. He's like, there's no way you're putting up these balloons that high.
Do you know how high they
He's
were going?
going just subspace. So it's like 75,000 feet.
Yeah,
I
so above the
believe.
mesosphere.
So he was just above the mesosphere.
Yeah.
And he's seeing like traffic, like organized traffic of things moving around.
Yeah,
up
they're
there.
jellyfish.
There you go. Yeah. Oh man.
So wow. I want.
So you know why you don't see them? That's the thing that people
Yeah,
ask.
I was gonna say that.
You know why people don't see them?
Dude, you just
this is
smacked my brain.
this is the other thing that
There's
convinced
traffic
me.
up there. Yeah, it's jellyfish.
Yeah, it's jellyfish. I was not expecting you to say
So
that.
you know, almost all air traffic is below 10,000 or the 10 miles.
Right.
You know, the human eye unabated can only see 10 miles. You cannot see right now. Let's say it's perfectly crystal clear outside, bright sunny day. You cannot see into the next layer of the atmosphere.
Really?
You can't. Our biological systems in our eyes just don't allow it. Other animals, sure, some of them can, some can't.
Okay.
We just can't.
Yeah.
Now make that creature slightly translucent.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, you're not seeing.
There's
nothing.
no reflective
There could be
material.
thousands of them.
There's no skin, right? So
There's, yeah,
if you're
even
pointing
they're
an
shiny.
infrared at it,
Well, some
Some are really metallic.
some could be,
And
and
they
they
like-
could
so
be
they look
mistaken
like
for.
UFOs,
Some of them
like
lick
ships.
you. Yes.
Could be.
Lick you.
Yeah, the pink
Explain.
fog and then the dog tongue of Ireland and stuff like that. And
I've
really, this
never
big
heard of
living
that.
cloud that they tell you if you encounter it, you got to lay down flat.
So is it one of these things that these other organisms link up to create this?
And that
peak
could be.
cloud?
It could be
Okay.
a cyanophore, or it could be
Yeah.
more like a big amoeba.
I never thought I would have such a
Dude.
strange theory presented.
That's why we're
seemed
doing this. That's
rational
why we do this
and also
show.
gave me pause of like, how didn't we think of that before?
I've done.
This is the problem with
Hundreds of
thinking we have
hours.
everything settled and we
So
have
you
everything
got real into
understood. and
this recently, like this. You went down a rabbit hole, like and
subscribe
got
to the other.
hooked.
Yeah,
well, I don't
so
think
we
know
have
anything.
several
too.
surprises coming
Me
out
too.
later this year with this topic.
Nothing.
So that's why I kind of dance around it, because we have a lot of
Yeah,
big
I don't
stuff
want to
happening
spoil.
on the back
I don't want
end
to spoil.
No
for this
problem.
project.
No problem.
Because I've done probably 200 hours in research, if not more, just on this.
That's great. I want to know when this happens because I want to
Oh,
watch
we'll be
this.
tuning in. That's
Yeah.
for sure. You got me because I see like we talked a little bit at Cryptidcon because you guys were like
Oh, when I was drunk screaming, they're all mushrooms, pointing at people.
and then I listened to it. I didn't get a chance to finish the episode that you guys did on the like sky creatures. So the part I just like, man, it's tough for me to. I'm really open-minded. I mean,
It makes more biological sense.
but when you
than
start
anything
breaking
else.
that down,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Like the actual biological
So here's the-
probability
Okay.
Right, there you go. Good word for it.
that something could exist, because I mean in school we learned about extremophiles living in ocean floor vents that are like basically
There are creatures on this planet that live in 2,000 degrees and eat sulfur.
and they eat nitrogen and sulfur and
Yeah.
weird
yeah.
shit.
And you're going to tell
gas.
me a big balloon creature can't exist?
So again, you
okay,
said they
but
got up
wouldn't
there from the mountains.
planes
So
be
there's-
hitting these things all the time?
No,
like as
we don't
they're-
have any traffic up
but
there.
they're not going that far. So they're
Oh,
just
the
way
NASA
way
green
up
slime.
there. They're just way
What about
way
the
up
NASA
there.
greens? No, okay, hold on.
There's a
There's
lot
too much
happening.
going on.
Let
right?
me-
Oh, I'm excited.
I need to know
Sorry.
about how they got to that level.
Take it
How did they get up there?
Basically,
Calm down.
Earth's always pushing stuff up above the ozone layer. So we're
How?
talking about the So we live in the troposphere. That's our level. That's our atmosphere that we're dealing with. It's pretty much homogeneous from where we are till 10 miles up.
Okay.
So it's kind of each layer of the atmosphere almost has an actual hard line. It's not like what we're seeing. You ever seen when ocean currents meet and like one's green, one's blue?
It's kind of like those thermometers that have the different layers in them. You
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about?
So yeah, they don't mix. They don't want to mix. They're very different medias.
I know what you're talking about. I have two of them at home.
There you go. So now you gotta- yeah.
Galilean,
thermometer,
yeah.
yeah.
Now you got a visual.
Yeah, okay.
So we are constantly, the Earth's surface is constantly upwelling stuff up there. Mountain ranges, they found out in the Rockies, is constantly pushing surface-bound nutrients into the stratosphere and into the mesosphere.
Through.
Just wind currents.
Okay.
Because you basically have this big pile of wind.
You're
that's
up tall
taking
enough,
all this stuff,
swooping
and
it
it hits the
pushing it.
mountain,
Air
and then
currents.
shoots up.
Gotcha.
So,
So it's like an escalator up to the different layers. the
literally
mesos-
have said that. It's an escalator.
Yeah.
And then some of these organic UFOs that get caught down here, they seem to be not doing very well.
Yeah, I mean,
they don't want to be down
stories
here.
of biological ships where they're
Yeah.
conscious spacecraft,
Yeah.
where they're actually like have
So-
organs
Yes.
and flesh.
So I think
and
these are part
bone.
of our biosphere.
Okay.
These are members of our biosphere. So the biosphere is the family tree. So even though we're vastly different on the ends of the branches from everybody else, we're still attached at the roots.
Yeah.
So these are still members of our biosphere.
I mean, we're
They're
close.
just a different, odd
Fungus.
branch.
We come from fungus.
Yes, animals came from fungi.
Yes.
Not the other way around. Fungi are an ancient.
Very, very. Probably came from asteroids and meteors. Like psychedelic mushrooms, like the tales of the ancient people of like essentially like mushrooms gave us religion, gave us consciousness, allowed us to want to expand our worldview.
Be self-aware, maybe.
The stoned ape theory.
Yeah.
Terrence McKenna.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have this biological relationship with fungus in terms of mycelium networks.
Oh, Jay's wearing it.
What you got?
Organic UFO.
Oh,
Sweatshirt.
that's what that is.
That's
Okay.
Everybody hates cows is where the episode's from. Everybody hates cows.
That's awesome.
But,
I love your guys' shirts, by the way.
Oh, thank
I
you.
wear mine.
hi, Pear.
They're so comfortable.
Oh, yeah. And the guy in Sweden does all of our art for us. He's awesome. His name's Pear.
Pear.
He's actually starting to work on some audio stuff for us.
Okay.
We're keeping him heavily employed.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Cool dude.
We run a town in Sweden now.
You got a whole town working for you.
Yeah, we have a radio
Dude,
ad
that's
out there in
awesome.
Sweden going
Yeah,
on.
we did have a radio ad in Sweden.
It's
How
still
weird is
going
that?
on.
That's
That's
really
so cool.
awesome.
We have a
So
radio ad
weird.
running around somewhere in Sweden.
That's awesome.
But with these creatures, and this is what we like to say is about 5% of UFO sightings.
Right.
It's not your nuts and bolts. It's not. It's a very small.
Well, you do see these, like, translucent
Oh, yeah.
balls
The
of
manta rays,
energy and cloud almost, where people are saying they're a UFO sighting.
Yeah.
When it's like almost like plasma.
We've had 200 people see a cloud throw up a bunch of bones.
Wait.
We didn't personally.
We didn't. We have the story.
The story.
Okay.
There's a story.
Where's that coming
From
out
this
of?
book?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's from Benedict's book.
Damn,
time
we need
period?
To
1879.
Yeah, late 1800s.
what?
And this giant black cloud was hovering over this town. And everybody was looking at it because it was weird because there's no storms. I'm like, this is super weird. And then proceeded to throw up a whole bunch of gar bones and gar scales. So gar are heavily armored fish.
Yeah.
They have interlocking
Big,
scales. They're like
giant,
diamonds.
Huge fish. Fresh
So
water.
they have all. This cloud threw up a whole bunch of bones and then left. And I'm like, well, that was like it freaked everybody. It
Well,
made it
that
all
was
the way-
weird.
It made it from Louisiana all the way to New York. So we went back and researched. At this time, there was a drought, and thousands of gar were dying in the drought. So that reeked. I think some of these creatures are scavengers. So I think it filled itself up with as much as rotting food as it could take.
Right.
Digested what it could, and threw up the crap it couldn't eat.
That's
Just
strange.
we have so many animals that do that. Owls threw up owl pellets.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
swallow
So you
everything,
think they
and then
come
they throw up
down
the part they don't
Yeah.
want.
into our world, into our space
Some
as
of these
well?
groups
Okay.
do, and we have it categorized in about 6 different types. Because I'm a biologist. Is what I did. So,
So you being a logical guy, like you've dug deep enough
this makes
to
perfect sense.
where, like DA, for example, talking to him, he's a former cop. Got into the North American Dogman Project from just, he not a cop anymore, but took all those research skills to go out into the field to search for Bigfoot, and grew up on his uncle's farm in Missouri, where his uncle's like, listen, these things are real.
Yeah.
And you need to stay out of this area of the farm
Yeah.
because it's no joke.
Right.
Warning him when he's a kid. But then, DA having that background, like you said, being a biologist, where he's got a different sense of being able, like he has a very logical mind. Like he's not just some weird dude running around in the woods. No, he's very on point.
You've been
very
taught a certain way
measured,
to think about things too.
very well researched.
Yeah.
Like you are as well, Justin. But you strike me as a logical person, but when you dig into something enough, and it's the information's there, it's hard to turn away from. And your logical brain's going, no, dude, this can't be real. But then you look further.
So
That's how giants and all this
Yeah.
weird shit.
my logical
for
brain,
me,
literally, we were
because it's
listening.
like, what? No, there's no way.
Betty and Barney Hill was the first one for me that made it all connect.
Yeah.
The Betty and Barney Hill abduction,
Yep.
that they were mushrooms, or some of them were
They
fungi
were-
based.
Yeah.
Some of these creatures we're seeing are actually atmospheric fungus.
Why do you say that about Betty and Barney Hill?
Well, their recounts when they were hypnotized
They
and
said
what
that
they were seeing.
Well, what we went off of was the Men in Black questioning. immediately after.
Mm-hmm.
In the 60s and 70s, they were asking if you were missing any nitrates. And Barney Hill was like, well, what the hell is a nitrate?
Right.
And he's like, well, fertilizer, processed meats, stuff like that. And he's like, oh, I did. I had 400 pounds of fertilizer in the trunk. And he's like, well, do you still have it? No, it's gone. And then they stopped questioning. They wouldn't go back to the questioning. There was a hot dog vendor or a hot dog truck guy that did, like, he was missing like 10,000 pounds of hot dogs.
Stop. This is all. So, okay. There's a little segue that's going to roll back into this in a weird way. Stranger Things. I just rewatched it again. I've seen it in the last season. Sorry if I'm spoiling it for anybody that hasn't watched it. I don't care. I do care. But the last season is everybody's eating this fertilizer.
See, I haven't
I
watched
don't
the
know if
last
you've seen
season
this,
Oh yeah,
but it's a hive mind of all these.
Yeah, it's a fungus,
things.
probably.
and they're getting
Right,
and they're
eating this fertilizer.
trying to transform.
I have never heard that in
And
my life.
Tremors,
of saying,
Hundreds of Men in Black
Tremors 3.
questionings.
That's part of the storyline in Tremors 3
Ooh,
when
I've
they
never
actually
seen Tremors 3.
when they change into
Didn't
the
either.
butt blasters. Like I've watched every Tremors movie ever
Yeah,
made.
I've
And
seen
there's
1 and 2.
There's 12 of them.
Oh, I did not know that.
100%.
The last one was the
And they
there's
get worse
12
and
of
worse
them.
as
Shrieker
time
I
goes
Island.
can
on.
let.
Shrieker Island.
Shrieker Island. That's the
They're-
third one.
Tremors
Is Kevin
is great.
Bacon any more than 1 and 2?
No, he's
Ke-
only
Kevin
in
No
one.
Bacon's
wonder
not
why.
real.
That's
But
so
the other
freaking
dude
funny.
is one of the main characters.
Okay.
The dude with all the guns with
Yeah.
Reba McEntire. He's in
basically
every
the
one.
Dale
of-
Gribble guy.
he's-
Dale Gribble. Yeah, it becomes his series. It does.
It
So
becomes his series. But those creatures to change into like in Tremors 2, they turn into the snakes, into the little, they branch off, and the one big worm makes the three they makes 3 more of these smaller ones that are like all they see in infrared, kind
Right.
of like the Predator. But then in the third one, or Shrieker Island, they eat fertilizer, and they eat like engine parts and shit like that.
Because it's not food to you, but it's food to something else.
Right.
We have creatures right now that eat steel and titanium.
Yeah.
They love it. They have
Yeah.
a digestive system. They can break that down in for organic nutrients.
Yeah.
So odd food sources can really point you to a branch in the family tree.
Right.
So with nitrogen and any nitrates,
Fertilizer.
the hot dogs. Like I use that guy because he got abducted, and he came back, and all the hot dogs in his whole semi were gone. And he's like, well, what the hell? They were talking to me, telling me I was special. They just took the hot dogs.
Got robbed.
Told me I was
this
special.
The hot dog cart got interstellar robbed.
60s, the
Dude,
70s,
that's
and a little
bad.
bit in
A
the 80s.
lot of nitrates in
Hundreds
the
of
hot dog.
encounters.
We're
I've
eating
never
that
heard
shit.
anything about that before. That's really strange.
But
I
there-
mean, it makes sense.
it wasn't just them. It was that whole time period they were asking that
Yeah,
question.
the
to every-
60s, the 70s, and the 80s. All the Men in Black that were coming back and questioning abductees, that was always on their roster of
nitrates.
questions.
question, yeah.
They're not, most time it didn't come back to it, but a couple of these cases, it's like, well, yeah, I did, but I don't know what happened to it.
Again, another segue. Men in Black, the movie. You know any bugs that come down and crave sugar water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
come down, crave fertilizer. But
There's all these parallels all the time. I always think it's being kind of thrown in
Soft
our
disclosure.
face.
a really
Oh,
good
they
example.
tell you what's happening
Yeah.
before
Oh,
it
yeah.
happens. They have to. It's
Yeah.
like part of that.
It's part of the game.
It's part of that karmatic wheel. Like the people in the know use Hollywood and movies
For sure.
to essentially tell us things through the movies. That way, it doesn't karmatically affect them for
Yeah,
not
we-
sharing it
we
to
put
the
it
world.
out there.
They put it out there,
They
and
have
it's
to tell you.
and you know it's there's like 10% of fact mixed in with fiction, but that 10% is what protects them from their karmatic wheel turning on them. So you know it's. But the first, I mean, that makes sense.
So how about this?
In 100%. Man, I'm starting to be a believer.
Oh,
Starting to believe.
it's not
DA
even-
got me believing in Dogman because I'm just like, I grew up, heard about the Michigan Dogman, probably when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
So we got the internet when I was in like 5th grade. So I'm 40. I'm a little bit older. We're a little bit older than you guys. So I didn't grow up with the internet,
Ooh, the dial-up.
but it was.
I still had
and I had a
dial-up.
Windows 3.2, Windows 3.1 operating system. And, you know, early on, you could find stuff about Mothman. Like even before the movie came out, I was online looking
Angel
into
fire
this
sites.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You go to chat rooms, kind of like Reddit, but not as specific for topics. But
Right.
you could go into rooms and talk about this stuff. And, there's just no access. You had Unsolved Mysteries might talk about a Bigfoot encounter. You might have, it comes to like what's on TV. There was just not that Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction, Unsolved Mysteries. So, you start to hear all the historical stuff early on with the internet with, what happened in Point Pleasant and start to realize like, holy shit, like there's a lot of stuff in our own backyard.
Oh yeah.
Ohio, I have a theory about this. I really believe that there's so many actors, very talented people, artists, people that go on to start really successful businesses that grow up in Ohio. And I think it has something to do and why there's so many cryptids and weird stories and paranormal shit. You know what I mean? Like Athens is the most haunted place in America, essentially.
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
And it's ridiculous. Stoner went to college there.
I went to Stoner. I was in Nelsonville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Had to use the Athens Walmart.
But this area, the river valleys, has been a hub for paranormal activity, Native American legends, giants, the earthworks, and the geometric nature and the astronomical encoding that's happening with all the. There was 10,000 of these at one point in Ohio.
Oh yeah.
So
We talked on the phone how many were destroyed in a couple of years.
Yes, and 4,000 destroyed
In 3 years.
essentially from like 1901 to 1904.
Yeah, it's something stupid. Just
Systematically
instantly.
destroyed as towns were expanding. It was all about manifest destiny. Once John Wesley Powell took over, the giants, all that stuff went away, and it was just.
Or boxed up and sent to
And a lot of those
Smithsonian.
guys were
They
eugenicists.
were snorting those bones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We have a meme about that. Andy
Snorting those bones.
Andy Arugula sent us that because we talked about it in our Smithsonian episode. We were like, "What are they doing with them? Oh, they're snorting them."
Grind them up and snort them in
Snorting
the
'em.
back room.
Yeah.
getting yayed up.
Yeah.
Smithsonian's the worst place.
Yeah, and
It doesn't ever bode well for it.
well,
No, if you hear that, if you see that involved with any of your monsters or historical sites, you're like, "Well, there goes that."
Yeah. Basically.
Yeah.
that's
Do you know what they're
credibility.
doing with NAGPRA?
yeah,
What do you mean?
Well, with the okay.
I know what
the
NAGPRA is, but
repatriation of bones.
Well,
from
yeah, you know what they're doing
1990.
with them?
Artifacts. Yeah.
Right now, they're sending them back to tribes. So that's what they were supposed to be doing.
That's not what they're doing with
what
them.
are they doing with them?
They've taken.
They're keeping them.
No, they've taken for this specific section. NAGPRA. Anybody that don't know, because I know this is going on our feed too.
Yep.
North American
Repatriation.
Yeah, I can never remember.
Grave Repatriation
Grave
Act.
grave and artifact.
Artifacts. Yeah.
Grave and artifact. But basically, it's only supposed to be if a tribe member or that tribe first off still has to exist,
Yep.
and they have to ask or want the stuff back.
Right.
They're not supposed to go in and take it unless somebody's like, "Oh no." So it's made for if like, let's say we were a Native American and we come in and we see something from our tribe in this area, like, okay, we want that back, and they have to give it back or they have to work out a deal. We're like, yeah, we'll put it was donated by X tribe,
Okay.
or they work it out where maybe 6 months it's in the museum, 6 months it's back home, whatever, that kind of stuff. Then that's the most like 10% of the law that's the artifacts that get used in this law go into that. With NAGPRA, what was it, 2000, and what we looked at, 2001, since 2001, I think it was when we did that episode, they have taken back 700,000 objects and over 100,000 remains that don't have a tribe and nobody's asking for them. So they went through all these small little museums
Right.
and took everything.
Yeah.
And guess what they're doing with them?
What?
They're burying them in a hole.
Mm.
They're reburying them.
Undisclosed
On an
location.
undisclosed
See,
location.
I would love to. I'm gonna ask Jeff about. We have Jeff Wilson coming in on
Yeah.
Friday. I'd like to see because we've talked about that a few times just in private, but it kind of goes into a lot of the stuff that Ohio History Connection and the
Yeah.
Smithsonian, these kind of high level organizations, and then more on a macro level, Ohio History Connection. I mean, they've been running these sites, Serpent Mound, since the 1900s, and it's still a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
What is the hold up?
Right. Is it a mystery?
How do we not know what is going on
a
here?
borehole coring system down there. It's a half an inch wide.
Yeah.
We will know when the bottom of it was built and who built it.
Right. And
And it
there's
don't destroy
layers
the site. It don't mess with the site.
underneath.
You will know that whole system of Serpent's Mound, who was started it, who then, and then who then, and then who then, and
But
then
doesn't
who
that
then.
always seem kind of funny? We're like, no,
I gotta go
we
to the
don't need to
bathroom
know.
No, no.
We
it's
already
like,
know.
Yeah, we already know. We know that there's this chieftain is buried 2 foot down into Serpent's Mound, and we got it. But yeah, we did that NAGPRA just for a Patreon episode, and that was a lot of research because it was crazy, and there wasn't even
I'd say
hiding
I know
it.
very little about it. We just found it out when we were
They
looking into the
weren't even
Smithsonian.
hiding it.
Yeah.
They're saying we've taken 300 objects back and given them to X tribe and this tribe, but we've taken 700 artifacts and 113,000 remains, and with no tribe to claim them. And I'm like, whoa, because it says that right in the article, or right in their basically their post about it. Like, well, it says right in the beginning that you only take it when people want it back, so they have no tribe to go back to. So these tribes are extinct, and then they just bury them in a hole out in some no-name place. And this is when, I think it was 2001. I can't remember. I drank too much. But this is right when the Smithsonian was getting a lot of heat for taking stuff.
Okay.
They were bullying smaller museums. It was getting public, though. It was just becoming a lot more public. NAGPRA was passed like 2 months after that. And it had been in the weeds forever.
Yeah.
And then finally, like, okay, we can use this.
Yeah.
So we put it out.
Get our agenda done.
Yeah, and then they put some, and it worked. NAGPRA works super well for the Native American tribes that want to get their items back. If they've had to seen in a museum
Sure.
for their whole lives that they can't do anything about.
Right.
That's great for it. It's what the Smithsonian's doing with the law.
Right. It's got a double edge to
Yeah.
it. It's got a backdoor built in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah. When we researched that episode, I mean, it was, farmer or so-and-so or construction crew, etc. They dug up X amount of mounds and found 10, 12 foot tall, whatever. And then the Smithsonian Museum came by and
Every article at the end.
grabbed them. And
The monsters. How many monsters have we done? We're at the end of the story, and they called the Smithsonian.
for monsters,
Yes.
give me an example, please.
So,
Because I'm not aware of
South
these.
America, one of our atmospheric creatures, a bunch of miners had a giant manta ray. So our manta ray type that we go over,
Sure.
flying overhead. They shot it to death. They just kept shooting it till it died, and then it crashed. And they're like, what do we do with this? Well, let's call the Smithsonian. This is in South America, and they came and got it, and only left them with a piece of the thing.
Yeah.
And it rotted. I mean, it rotted pretty quick.
Yeah.
They took like a 20 foot wide, like a 30, 40 foot long creature. They came to grab it without any question and left. Snallygaster. The Snallygaster got involved. That creature we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
The Smithsonian got involved with it. The carcass that
Was in the building?
I cannot.
Supposedly.
Thank you. Was from that creature. The Smithsonian taught. Do you know about the short-faced bear, the famous short-faced bear from the 50s?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know why that's important?
The snub-nosed bear?
No, why, with the Smithsonian. So this guy out in the 50s or 60s was a big game hunter. He'd go up and just anywhere in like Canada and go. He'd basically fly in a biplane, a puddle jumper. He'd land in a lake and go hunt that area. He shot a colossal, what he thought was the weirdest, ugliest grizzly bear. And he's like, well, this isn't. He's like, but he kept feeling like this is not normal. So he took the meat, he took the hide, and he took the skull because he had to get back on his plane and leave. And he's like, well, what? I don't know. He's like, this isn't a grizzly bear, but I don't know what it is.
Right.
I think his account it was 3,500 pounds.
It was a big bear.
It was a little bigger than a big polar bear, like a monster polar bear.
3,500 is that a sizable bear?
It's a small hippo.
That's a bear. Jesus.
So yeah, a lot more of an attitude. So he goes to Smithsonian, and there's like, it was a little different in the old. I think this was in the 50s or the 60s.
I can't remember.
I can't. But anyways,
decade.
They do an intake form, and the whole thing is he's going to get their skull back. They're IDing it. They have biologists that just work for them that ID species for other collections, because they have the ultimate. That's the whole point. That is the original point of the biological collection. There is, so let's say you think you discovered a new species of parrot.
Right.
They're going to go through their whole collection of that species and make sure it's not a color variance or something weird.
Right.
Okay.
It's kind of not as important anymore with our genetics. We can look at the genes and tell if it's a different species or not.
Right.
But in the old days, it was really important because it's like, oh no, that just happens to be what the cockatoos look like in southeast Australia. That's just what they look like. You just happen to find it a little further out of its range.
Right.
So it's not a new animal. It's just a little out of home.
Yeah.
So with the short-faced bear skull, that's what I'm calling it, they took the measurements. He had the intake form. He's supposed to get it back in 3 weeks. And so he has this paper this guy gave him that has all the measurements and what the Smithsonian got. Basically like your laundry tag. So you can come back and you can get your item.
Right.
And 3 weeks go by, and he calls and nothing. Calls and nothing. Well, finally, months go by. And he goes there and he's like, I got my form. Where's my skull? And they're like, it's actually on loan at another museum. And he's like, what the hell? It's not yours. So he goes to that museum, like, we don't have it. And then he gets the runaround forever. Finally, they give him a skull back.
It's not his.
It's a classic grizzly bear skull that's like a quarter of the size. But he has the intake form with the measurements of the original skull.
Right.
And he's like, what the hell? And the only reason this got any stink is because he had some money. He was not a poor man.
Right. So he had resources.
Yeah, but you cannot legally sue the Smithsonian.
Right, because they're sheltered because
it has to be approved by Congress.
And they're across seas. Like they're actually technically organized.
There's a Congress bill.
They were started by a guy from across seas.
Yeah. There's a Congress bill that does not allow you to sue for anything in the Smithsonian's collection without Congress approval.
They're very powerful.
That doesn't smell fishy.
It's a super powerful organization.
And the board that makes up.
We did a whole episode on just the board of directors of the Smithsonian.
Oh, boy.
Billionaires. Bill Gates' friends.
Yes.
There's only one guy. There's only one guy that's supposed to be on the board. And he's the best, is the art guy.
Art collector.
He was the best art appraiser.
Art appraiser, yes.
Yes.
So the Smithsonian could be maybe, say, the front-running office for the Men in Black.
Yeah, it's basically if you have something, they can come in and take whatever they want. If they,
Was it?
they stole a
I'm seeing
T-Rex.
they seem like they get called out to
similar.
strange encounters,
Yes.
sightings, happenings.
They became the leading biological entity on a purpose, or historical entity, or
Right.
whatever, because they're everything. They're
Right.
the ultimate museum. And we talked about it. There's two Smithsonians. There's the front of house, the normal museum.
Right.
It has no idea what's going on behind the curtain.
Sure.
Right.
Some of them know there's something back there, but they know they don't ask.
Then you have the Black Ops Smithsonian.
The real Smithsonian.
Yes.
The monster behind that red curtain.
Yep.
There's something back there.
100%.
And that's because when you go to Smithsonian, it's just a museum. The buildings are just a museum.
Right.
There's nothing there. It's
like
not
the vault in Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
interesting.
That's the Smithsonian.
That's the
the real one.
with all the crates piled up.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, dude, Ohio History Connection is. I feel like all these sub organizations are all based off of what the Smithsonian did first. So the Ohio History Connection, they control everything.
the babies.
They control everything in
Smithsonian's the
Ohio.
blueprint.
When it comes to wanting to dig or have an archaeologist, somebody like Emily Aldrich from the Portsmouth Museum, or the Southern Ohio Museum, wanting to do work on the Portsmouth earthwork, which there's only a small portion of that left, and to be able to fly a drone, to do LiDAR, to do magnetometer, to do any type of research, you got to jump through so many hoops, and especially she's trying to write a book and do presentations and try to get information to let people know about these, and she's just running into walls after walls, and you have and she's not like an independent crazy some kind of side researcher that's just out there trying to sell a book. She's one of the directors of the Southern Ohio Museum. So it's such a control. They have so
That's
much
the point.
and
knowledge
censorship.
filter.
now, I mean, back in the day, we used to go to Serpent Mound. When the first time we interviewed Jeff, we knew the park ranger there, that Arc of Appalachia, when they used to run it before, like Ohio History Connection took it over a few years back, where they banned all ceremonies if you're not a part of like what they say can happen, or the Shawnee from Oklahoma. They basically banned Friends of the Serpent Mound doing their winter solstice. They light the whole serpent and put candles around it during the winter solstice. Not allowed to do that anymore. Our friends from Serpent Mound Star Knowledge Group, Terry and Tom, they bring elders from all over the world. They've had people from Australia, African tribe elders, all over the place to come and see Serpent Mound and to do ceremony with different cultures from all. Not allowed to do that anymore. They're not allowed to, and these guys are the ones that have been preserving these places. In all actuality, a lot of the early fundraising of Serpent Mound, Jeff Wilson and his wife Delcy and Terry and Tom and all these people, and now they're just shunned.
Wow.
They're just not allowed to connect. And if you're not part of the in group and it's not approved, like Graham Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse show, where he's literally in front of the camera and they're closing the gates behind him.
Yeah.
He was approved to go and research and shoot and film and everything. And Jeff was there. He had told us about this last summer months before it aired, and said, man, it's not going to be a good look. It's not going to be a good look for Ohio.
Look so evil.
Ohio History Connection.
I mean,
and they ended up blurting out the sign. He read the email in the episode.
Yeah, it was great.
And it was blurred out. So it looks like Serpent Mound itself is the one
told him
banning.
to F off.
Right.
But it wasn't Serpent Mound.
Right.
But it's unfortunately.
Hiding behind that.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
So from what I used to do with work, I did a lot of endangered species survey and stuff. The worst thing you can do is find an endangered species.
Really?
That's not the point. They don't want you to find them. So I worked for a third-party company that would be hired to do stuff, and we were not supposed to find stuff. But we were third-party. We didn't care. We were trying to find these things. So they would make our practice procedures, because they dictated what we could do, just like this, and they would make it so it was impossible to find the species we were looking for.
Yeah.
Like we would I can't name the survey or anything like that, but eels. We were looking for eels in a state. Their eels are supposedly about to come back. But if they're back, they have to remove every dam. We're talking billions of dollars. Billions.
So this is
With a
why
B.
people don't want to find them.
Yes. Because when they find them, they get protection. When they get protection,
right.
the
You can't
animal
build
wins.
your highway. You
100%.
can't destroy the wetland.
Extinct
You can't-
animals have no rights. Or extirpated. So extirpated means locally extinct. So extinct animals have no rights. But if they come back, then they have rights. So they made us do... So eels are nocturnal, bottom-dwelling fish.
Yeah.
They made us go out during the day, and they made us run nets for them. We weren't catching no eels. And we interviewed fishermen and stuff like that. They're like, yeah, we catch them all the time. But we weren't allowed to go. Like, if we did our normal survey, if we were, like, purposely looking for a species, we could have found it.
Wild.
So they do it everywhere. It's all... our end, it was more about the money.
Do they really want to find new information about these sites?
No.
That's what I'm...
No.
And dude,
then they
tell
have to
you
do something
tell you
about
the
it.
That's
truth,
the whole thing. The monopoly
getting
board
to
has
a
been
point-
set. Nobody
I've
wants to
given
clear
them
the pieces.
a lot of these organizations the benefit of the doubt of, okay, it can't be that bad.
Yeah, it is.
It really can't. Like, is there really some just like evil cabal that's maybe not? A lot of it is just, it's the fact that, like, well, early on, these organizations just weren't set up. But, like, you've had 100 years. You've had over 100 years to have these processes in place where you have archaeologists back in the day that would just dug up Serpent Mound, pushed all the dirt back, reformed it as best. It's a recreation of what you see.
Yeah.
A lot of earthworks are recreations
There's
because some
almost no
drunk
untouched one.
and most of them were like dudes out of college that are just down there having a frat party.
Let's
like
dig it up and
Putnam.
see what's down there.
Like Putnam. I mean, all the Serpent Mound artifacts are in Harvard or in the Peabody Museum.
Oh,
And
so
that's where
they don't exist.
Our friend Jeff Wilson had to jump through so many hoops, and he went through the whole Serpent Mound artifact collection in the Peabody Museum, and that's where he found that skeleton, this postcard of a skeleton, and through digging through all these things. Actually, I don't know if he found that in the Peabody. Jeff's probably watching like, you're screwing up my story. But
he'll correct it.
finding this this postcard, we have a video about it on our YouTube page. But essentially, like, there was an artifact that was in the photo, so he figured out how big the skeleton was
Based
by
off of some
measuring.
scale.
Yeah.
So
The
he had
artifact.
to find that artifact.
I gotta find this artifact
at the Peabody Museum or wherever he was digging. So then he could take that and scale it, and then figure out how large that skeleton was.
Did he find it?
And with the caption in the postcard, yes, he did. And the caption in the postcard said, "Giant skeleton found at Serpent Mound." So that's what kind of piqued his interest.
The crazy part was it didn't even have its lower legs.
Yeah. So it would have been
It
a
was
lot
that tall
bigger.
with just
But that was
Just
used
from the
in
femur,
Ross Hamilton's book. Ross Hamilton's kind of the OG of all giant research. lives down in Mason. We've interviewed
Wow.
him, but he's the one that inspired a lot of like the Jim Vieira and Hugh Newman's. When Jim Vieira and Hugh Newman wrote their book, they went straight to Ross Hamilton right here in Ohio. Like Ross is the OG, and Jeff and him have worked together and shared, because Jeff's more of like your straight up scientist. Reese used to work for NASA doing surveys.
Never a straight answer.
He was one of the first people that did LiDAR scanning and scanning at Serpent Mound for different government agencies in Ohio. So legit dude has a lot, and as legit, you meet him, you're just like, this isn't some crazy maniac dude that's trying to get in the news. He's not trying to create these salacious stories. What is the fucking problem? Why are you giving these people so much shit? He's legit.
He's like he ain't been shot.
I mean, he lives right next to it.
I mean, that he hasn't got depressed.
I mean, he just keeps, I don't know.
That happens to a lot of them.
But he lives right next to Serpent Mountain, and that's what keeps him going, dude.
Yeah.
He's living by this beacon of energy.
Yeah.
That's, you're soaking in this consciousness shifting. I mean, the first time I went there, it literally shifted my mindset, shifted my consciousness to.
Got a question for you.
Yes.
What do you think about the gravitational anomalies and the magnetic anomalies there?
It's because of the impact crater. We have a tour that we have a DVD and video coming out real soon. It's going to be for sale in the rock shop just outside in Locust Grove.
Fake Cops.
The House of Fake Cops. Our friend Tom and Terry have a little rock shop. And then he's got the largest trilobite collection that used to be on lease to the Smithsonian. When it was off lease, now it's sitting in the little rock shop, 7 miles from Serpent Mound. Go say hi to Tom. He'll tell you.
I have a whole bunch of trilobites.
Dude, Tom would be.
I've been collecting for a while.
When I say he's a trilobite expert,
I'm sure he is.
He's legit, bro.
Yeah.
And NASA came to him when they were trying to find the breccia from the Serpent Mound impact crater. NASA knew that from their scans that impact crater was there. So when they showed up in the area, the first person they ran into and talked to was Tom. Tom's like, I know exactly where the breccia is. Come follow me. He showed the NASA scientists where all that was and showed us. He took us on a whole. He gives tours. You guys should go and just take a tour with Tom. He'll literally get you drive him around, but we shot the whole thing and then interviewed him. And then Kyle Stoner did a beautiful 20-minute piece with interviews being cut with the tour. It's called the Serpent Mound Impact Crater Tour. So it'll be available on our YouTube channel, but then also for sale as a DVD. We designed the cover. We'd never done a DVD before.
Make sure you let us know when that comes out. We'll promote it.
But yeah, it was a part of a live stream that we did with Ross Hamilton. We created the piece with Tom, and then I interviewed another person. It was a cool little ticketed event we did for the winter solstice in 2020. For Serpent Mound Star Knowledge is a group that Tom and Terry have been basically fostering for years, bringing all these different elders into the area to pray and do ceremony. They do a spring equinox ceremony. They do summer solstice stuff. But they've been in the area for so long, and Jeff lives right down the road from Tom and Terry.
Yeah.
So like we kind of slowly started getting in with some of these groups, and now what's happening to them is just a shame, because they are real stewards of this place. And it's really sad to see.
Now it's got popularity
we've been called racist. We've been called cultural appropriates for doing informational, like interviewing Ross Hamilton, him talking about, apparently because we're white, or I have some Native American blood from my father. He was from Mexico originally, so more like New Mexico, Arizona, northern Mexico. But they see us, and then we got written up as being cultural appropriates for just talking about astronomical alignments and really cool information that Ross has been writing about forever, living just in Mason, Ohio, and Ross and Terry and Tom and Jeff and the friends of the Serpent Mound and Delcy, And all of them, when I say they've raised money, they've put in sweat, blood, and tears. They have volunteered. And now this new ownership, Ohio History Connection's already owned it, but it's the structure that's being put in place for World Heritage Site. So they're trying to get UNESCO World Heritage Site status for Newark earthworks. Basically, all the 5 Hopewell sites, which Ohio History Connection has their new exhibit. It's kind of whack, to be honest. Like, there's one really cool part if you go, but Serpent Mound's a part of that. And the thing with World Heritage status, like Chaco Canyon, in Ohio at least, in the United States, Chaco Canyon's kind of our big one that's already UN World Heritage Site. But then the Great Pyramids, Chichen Itza, the biggest sites in the world are on this list, and they're protected by the UN. So that with that comes gift shops, parking fees, money. Like, they have to expand these parking lots.
It's a big Ponzi scheme.
And there's parking lots sitting on top of a wood henge that's at Serpent Mound, like you see in Europe. There's a legit wood henge. They know it's there.
Isn't there a whole
and the
bunch
parking
of them in
lot's
Serpent?
on top
Built
of it.
right on top.
So they're going to come in.
They don't care about the history.
No,
of
it's a cover-up.
They're
It's
not
just to make
into
sure you don't know it.
preserving jack shit.
They're there to make money.
That's the thing that's been upsetting me is I've given these organizations the benefit of the doubt for far too long. And the more and more I'm talking to you guys now and some of the things you're saying and over the years getting to know Jeff, that it's just like, maybe in my back of my head that it's just, they're just not running it well. It's just people that aren't that sharp, that it's not an accident. But then again, you look at the board members, you look at the weird stuff that's going on.
Technology.
So is
being
it
funded by huge organizations, like getting these endowments, like
how's your forehead feel?
It's spinning a
I was
little
gonna say
here.
you're about to get a laser dot on it.
Yeah.
Is it because there's this evil organization,
called the
orchestrating all this,
I don't
or
know.
is it just money,
I'm
is it?
Grabbing a beer.
Yeah.
Are they using money
Maybe.
to convince people, to run these sites in the fashion which they do because they're getting paid? They're gonna get money out of it,
Right.
and they're using that to control people in a way, to control this narrative in a way.
Right.
So is it money or is it?
Tell them about the UN in the forest.
Oh well, so there's. Don't throw me off. So in the UN or in the forest, so there's national forests or national parks around the U.S.
I'm good, buddy.
In the
Thank
middle,
you.
I'm all right. In the middle, you'll find these random white vans or random parking areas. But is it every national forest is owned by the UN? Every national park is owned by the UN.
Because they're funding it probably some way.
No, because it's not. It's not owned by anybody.
It's
So
supposed to be ours.
No,
But it's
people
not.
wrong.
It's not
It-
anymore.
it's-
You're wrong and you're dumb.
I mean, it's supposed to
So
be.
the
That's
UN owns
that's
the
the
national
line
parks?
we're fed. Is that
No. Yes.
it's public land? They call it public
No.
land.
It's public land. It's not public land.
Yeah, I can't
It's
go
not
out into certain
owned.
parts of these parks.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not owned. It's a world thing. Yeah. So there's literally.
So
Sorry.
they're doing that same thing with historical. So yeah, keep going.
You'll find the white vans in the middle of these national parks that are UN vehicles with weird license plates on them.
Seen them.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no buildings out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the weird thing. There'll be 100 cars somewhere, and there's no buildings.
What are they doing?
It's a
out
parking lot out in the middle of no roads.
I don't know. I don't know what they're doing out there or why, but it's just
It's
they're
almost
there.
like
Shady.
a bunch of people go missing in the national parks every year. We don't know why.
Well,
Right.
yeah.
Right. It goes back
Because you
to
walk
that.
into a UN base, and now you're tonight's soup.
Yeah. You want that list, it's going to cost you $3 million. Politis tried to get it,
Yeah,
a list, and they said something like $4 million
good lord.
to pay
Jesus
for it.
Yeah.
He was like,
Christ.
what do you mean? Like, it's paper.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is
What's
gonna
on the
cost.
paper?
Yeah, that's the
Mhm.
dangerous
Yeah.
part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy.
But it does all connect. It does, like you said. It's academia. It's the EPA. I mean, the Ohio EPA has done.
I'm not allowed
some,
to talk about anything with the Ohio EPA.
Okay. Have you been scared a little bit?
No,
No.
I'm on NDAs.
Jobs.
Oh, copy that. And I won't get into it. I was on a documentary down in Waverly. Lady was making a documentary on the family that was killed execution style in their
Oh,
trailer.
Ross County.
And through that process of her doing that documentary, just went down there to just try to figure out what was going on with this murder.
Yeah.
And she went down 20 different rabbit holes where it was
there,
earthworks, lost civilization stuff that was pulling her this way. There was stuff with the defunct plutonium factory that's down there where everybody worked. And when it shut down, that county is the poorest county in Ohio. There's so much corruption. And what they're doing to essentially, they were trying to make that plutonium factory a nuclear dump to just fold it all in and then have other people bring in their nuclear waste. And so essentially, like, they had these geologists and survey people come out and it's like, no, totally safe. There's no cracks in the bedrock. It's not going to leach into the water.
Oh,
and meanwhile, there's people getting bone cancer everywhere down there.
That's what that movie's about, isn't it?
Brockovich?
Yeah.
Basically.
A similar situation.
Yes.
That was West Virginia, though, right?
They were dumping these chemicals from like a tanning
I don't know if it was nuclear.
Into the water.
No, but same thing. It's getting into the watershed.
Flint.
We've been on a big kick about the water table and stuff like that.
Water's
the next
getting
war.
scary, dude.
It's the next war. You know about the Euphrates?
Yeah, you ever seen the documentary Blue Gold? It's really fascinating. Just how, like, Nestle is up in Michigan sucking out all the tributaries going into the Great Lakes.
How about the Mississippi?
Yeah, that
you
too.
You can walk across it in Louisiana. I was down there 5 years ago, and you couldn't. You can now walk across it because it's not. We've killed the water system, and that's we just got to talk about this. Me and my dad, a very educated man, but he's like, I don't understand what you mean that we don't have. What we did is we cut out a lot of the middlemen of the water cycle, the conventional water cycle we evolved with. We've tiled everything. Everything's asphalt. We straighten the rivers. It's to get it as fast as you can to the ocean.
Right.
Nothing's going back. Up. Yeah, nothing's going back into the water table.
Like down into the aquifers.
Correct.
Yes.
And we've killed all the rainforest. We're destroying forests. So forests off-gas water.
Yep.
So literally, we talked about this on the show. Rainforest in South America are the only reason some countries in South Africa get water.
Get rain.
Because the storms that are formed over top of the rainforest go across the ocean and give them their water. And they're not getting any more because that part of the rainforest is gone.
Right.
We've killed the water
That's
cycle.
The monsoons that form off of Africa that feed all those inland jungles in Africa.
But Euphrates is dry. It's officially dry. I don't know if you guys are biblical or I'm a Christian.
I'm interested
Euphrates
in the Bible.
Is very important for Christians.
Absolutely. I mean,
because it's when the end times, trials and tribulations start. Is when the
Sumeria
Euphrates runs dry.
And we're there.
Yeah, it's dry. There ain't no water. And then
glad we're starting a podcast.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to we're gonna get to our like silver status on YouTube,
and
then
the
world's
padlock
just
the
gonna
door
end.
for the zombie apocalypse.
We just monetized.
And then pockets around the Dead Sea are turning red, and that's also talked about in the Bible.
Really?
And we don't understand why. We think it's an allergy, but they can't ID the species.
Right, red algae.
Right now, this is happening again.
Right now, like 2 days ago is when this came out.
Hot off the press.
I mean, dude,
I called Jay screaming.
Göbekli Tepe, all those ancient sites in Turkey. That shit's wild, man.
Yeah.
I mean, they're blowing away timetables of
for
civilization.
Sure. For sure.
And who's to say that there wasn't something even more advanced before that?
Zahi Hawass.
Where would the evidence be?
Zahi.
Yeah, he says.
Jay was screaming at me about him today.
I don't like that man.
No.
Nobody does. Nobody in this room does. I know that for a fact.
Not a fan.
No, not
the fact
a fan.
that he
looking at Stoner though, he's not in this room.
We can still hang out with Stoner, isn't that sweet? And he can talk.
I love
to
it
us.
because it's like his picture's big enough to where he feels like he's included.
He is. Yep. He's the fifth
element.
We gotta bring Stone into the show. We gotta have a little. We gotta figure out the
Put a window right there.
The Stone feed.
We've thought about that too.
Into the. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great? Cut a hole in a window and put a camera on
wave
him
at Stone. Oh, a long time ago, just giants. The multi-rows of teeth. Polyodactyly is a more extra. That's extra toes and fingers.
Fingers, yeah.
Yep, there's that too.
Blue skin. A lot of giants are blue.
Like Avatar.
Not that quite that blue, but blue, gray skin.
Blue hue, yeah, sure.
Yeah. You know what those are all signs of, right?
Cyanosis.
Inbreeding. Limited genetic pool. Those are all genetic markers for a population that's on collapse. and it's especially a hominid. It's crazy. Like literally, and we're talking about stories that we're getting from the 18 and 1700s about these blue giants that have extra fingers. Or even further back, the extra finger thing goes back.
They're like mutating. They're like mutated.
It's because your gene pool is getting so short that you don't have the genetic capacity to form a normal body anymore.
Yeah.
So you ever heard of the Great Headache with the giants?
No.
Okay. I'm not a great giant person, as in the research and stuff like that. It's just not something that I've researched heavily.
Okay.
But the Great Headache was basically an interview with giants, like 300 or 400 years ago, one of the last living giants. And they talked about that a long time ago there was a lot of us, and now there's not.
Right.
Because of the Great Headache. There's basically a disease.
A war.
No, it was a disease where they would get like, it seemed like a brain infection. And because it would start with a headache, an excruciating headache, and then a bleeding nose, and then death. And it seemed like a very small percentage of this giant population was immune. And they were the ones that left. And they kept breeding and breeding and breeding. But the genetic pool was so destroyed that, because you're also talking about a population that was not, or that was immune to the disease, so they're probably already kind of related.
Yeah.
And that's why we started getting modern time. Modern, I mean, the last 3,000 or 4,000 years. Blue giants, polydactyly. Anything with polydactyly is definitely inbred. That's like the number one thing with inbred. If you have extra or less fingers and toes,
There's something wrong with that
Yeah.
blueprint.
Yeah. And then the extra rows of teeth is another big one with humans.
Yeah, they find it in kids. And they get them
the blue
pulled
people
when
in
they're
West
little.
Virginia,
Yeah.
they were inbreds. They had been breeding in their own family for so long, they turned blue, and they had polydactyly.
That's
Damn.
so strange.
And it's just a sign. So let's say me and Jay were talking about this the other day. I think giants probably lived, their lifespan was probably 200 to 300 years, if not longer.
Yeah, they spoke. Well, I mean, like the king's list of Sumeria and Egypt, like
They talk
goes
like
back hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah.
Where like one king was king for 1,000 years,
Right.
And there's like, oh well, that's myth, But here it is on these steles in Egypt and these giant temple complexes.
Yeah.
Where they have these lists, and then Sumeria has them as well, where Enki and Enlil
So do you know the
And
problem with
the
a long-lived
depictions
species?
of what?
With a long-lived species that's facing extinction, is they have really slow gestation periods. So they breed really slow. That's
Yeah.
why it took so long to get elephants back.
Right.
They have almost a 13-month gestation period. So
Right.
it takes them over a year just to produce one offspring,
Right.
plus raising it for 4 or 5 years before they'll get pregnant again. So if these giants are living extended lives, extended compared to us, they're going to breed really slow.
Right.
So if you do face a cataclysm, you can't bounce back like we can. We're like roaches
Right.
compared to
Right.
we can produce an offspring.
But I mean,
and
even
be
in the
out in a year.
1500s, DeSoto wrote about going up the Mississippi and through the tributaries in like the South and Midwest and running into tribes of regular-sized people and tribes of giant people. And they were living hand in hand and next to each other. We covered the story about Magellan off the coast of Patagonia.
That was great.
Where Magellan's crew wrote and actually sketched.
They tried to bring one back.
They tried it. They
Come on the
captured
boat.
it.
Yeah.
And they knocked it out and got it on board, and the thing died supposedly in captivity.
I mean, you
And
hit it in the head hard
there's-
enough, it probably ain't going to be the best shape.
Well, it wasn't a giant. It's not going to have sea legs
Right.
like that. That if it's never been on a boat, and if you hit it hard enough on the
I was
head,
gonna say,
it
how'd they
gets
knock
sick.
it out?
Yeah,
Yeah,
or it
but,
was a
I mean-
nutritional or dietary thing of
Yeah.
it couldn't survive the journey.
But well
or-
documented sketches.
A lot of
drawn.
big animals
Yeah.
don't do good in captivity.
Yeah.
Especially a smart one.
100%.
They just starve themselves. They won't
Yeah,
eat.
I mean, they're people.
Trilocines were the Tasmanian tigers.
Right.
We had a bunch of them in zoos. We only ever had like a handful
Right.
that would actually eat
The
food.
last one was in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The most of them starve themselves to death in captivity because they
Makes
give
sense.
them food, they give them live food, dead food. It didn't matter. They just sit there and pace.
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't right. That's all their
I'm
their
not in
brains
my
get-
natural
yeah.
habitat.
And I think those are back. There's people that have been seeing
did a
trilocines.
2-hour episode on it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
oh, in
Wow.
Australia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what the
Yeah,
big
they've
fight
been
with trilocines right now
What's that?
is the genetic labs that's bringing woolly mammoths back. Woolly mammoths are officially woolly mammoths have not been cloned yet. I think
Officially.
I think they have been.
Yeah.
But this company's saying we have the genome, we can do it. We have Asian elephants are the closest living relative of the woolly mammoth. So we have a surrogate. So we can do it. So they're working on doing it. There's some evidence to suggest that it may help with some of the Jay doesn't like the word, but climate change stuff in our more northern climates. basically it creates more food in the winter. So what mastodons and mammoths did is, well, mammoths specifically, would take their giant tusk and they're basically snowplows.
Right.
They'd make food available
They're
all
rooting
winter
up
long.
all the mushrooms.
So many species went extinct right after mammoths
Yeah.
because they depended on mammoths.
Sure,
To clear the
absolutely.
path.
Yeah,
The woolly
for the-
rhinoceros.
for months of the year.
Yeah.
The ground sloths.
yeah, once
that
they
were
went extinct,
giant
they were like,
ground
yep,
sloths, the
They're
woolly
gone
rhinos.
because they can't eat in the winter now. They don't have the system. So this company's bringing them back, and they think there's some evidence. I don't. I want them back, but it's just me. I like seeing big animals.
You really think they're gonna put woolly mammoths back somewhere?
They're already there.
Really?
I think so. 90% Siberia we can't go to
That is true. Yeah.
because it's Siberia, not because nobody's telling you can't.
So deep.
You can't get there because you'll die.
Right.
But so this company, anyways, came to Australia, and they built a $5 million genetics lab for cloning trilocines. They have DNA. They have a couple marsupials that are kind of close related. They're like, okay, we have like 3 or 4 options for a surrogate. So we think we can do this. And the thing is, they went extinct because of human hunting them to
Predation, yeah.
extinction relatively recently. So the ecosystem that they were from is still present. They still have a role. The role hasn't been completely eaten up by invasives yet. So there's still a chance that if we bring them back, they'll do okay.
Right.
And they can get reestablished and they'll do great. The problem is this is a lot of money.
Yeah.
But Australians are fighting back, not because of the genetics lab cloning animals, because they said they're still there. So why are you spending and wasting all this money? Instead, protect the ones we got.
They're there.
Yeah.
They're
Protect
there.
the ones that are still living.
Right.
Don't make new ones.
Yeah.
Do something else. So
Yeah.
this lab is like, okay, we have 5 more years to build and finish this project. So if you can find, and I think that we did the rewards like $1 million or something. It's if you can find us a live one before we're done with this 5-year project, we'll use the lab to clone some other endangered species.
Wow.
So there's this whole timetable thing now that's going on with the trilocene. We're like,
That's wild.
but I've seen videos of them. I know they're real. Like they're, I mean, as in still around.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
I mean, we had the
The
wildlife
famous
biologist.
black and white video that you see.
Where it's in the zoo or
it's in
something.
like 19.
Well, I
whatever,
seen
30.
color ones from 2018
Yeah.
of a mom with her pups.
Really.
Yeah, and it's striped rump, so they have a very stiff tail.
Yeah.
So people are like, no, it's a dingo. Dingo are dog, the related dogs. They have a very fluctuating tail. Trilocines have a very rigid, thick, stiff tail.
Yeah.
It's all almost fused bone. So it looks like they're wagging a like a mop handle. So there's nothing there. Like it can't bend.
Right.
Like if you took that, it would be very painful if you tried to bend that tail. So there's plenty of video evidence, but that doesn't mean anything for what people care about.
Right.
But to me,
It's
they're
like
they're
Bigfoot.
still around. Yeah. But yeah, and then Megalania is another Australian one. Giving our Australian listeners a shout out because we just kind of blew up over there.
Oh, nice.
We've gotten a whole bunch of emails and reviews from Australia over
Very
the
cool.
last 2 weeks.
Very cool.
But Megalania still are being seen. Do you know
What is that?
the big Komodo dragon?
Wait, what? Bigger
So-
than a Komodo?
Yeah, Komodos get 20 foot. This guy got 50.
Damn.
Big Komodo dragon.
You know why the Aborigines didn't have fires at night?
Because it would bring the Komodos.
Yeah, because they bring the Megalania.
The Megalania around.
They'd come in and eat the whole village,
Yeah.
and then they'd take the fire and scrape it out and lay in the embers.
Stay warm.
So that's why the
That's a
Aboriginals
real-life
sit there.
dragon.
They just sit there in the dark because it's like, yeah, if we light this fire, every monster for 10 miles is coming here.
This is great. I've never heard any of this stuff, but that's
So
fantastic.
we still have modern sightings
Yeah.
of Megalania today. So do you know where the largest unexplored rainforest by volume on the planet is?
in Australia.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of a hint. But yeah,
It is?
yeah. There's a massive rainforest that we can't go into because everything will kill you. Every
Yeah.
bug is venomous.
It's like on the southwest part of
Yeah.
Australia, right?
Yeah, it's monstrous.
Where they get more
The-
rain.
Yeah, they're just barely doing. So Yowie is the Australian Bigfoot-like
Yep.
creature.
Yep.
There's a company or a group that's doing a little bit of research down there, but they can only go to this one valley because they need to be able to get out in time if something stings them.
Right.
So they have to time it. Like, okay, if I get stung right here, it's going to take me 45 minutes to get back to the camp. It's going to take me 2 hours to get to the main road, and it's going to take me 2 hours to get to the hospital. So if I get stung by this insect, I can make it, but if I get bit by this spider, I can't.
I did not know Australia had this big of a rainforest.
Australia's a massive continent.
It's huge, subcontinent. Yeah,
But
it was like Indonesia. All that was one giant.
yes, during the last
it's
ice
all
age.
on a big shelf.
Yeah, that's why the Great Barrier Reef
Fiji
exists.
was part of
we
it.
have these giant shallow water shelves because they were above land.
Yeah.
Sometime in the recent past, you can argue time scale and everything like that. We do know the Great Barrier Reef's at least 40,000 years old, so it's been underwater.
For a while.
Or at least most of it's been underwater for at least that long.
Yeah.
But there's bleaching events on top that look like, or historic bleaching events look like it was like chunks of it have been raised and lowered, like above waterline and below waterline. There's coral in the Great Barrier Reef that goes almost right up to the surface. It's an incredible place on the planet.
Yeah,
so
I would love to.
I'm gonna have to look into this
everything
rainforest.
kills you. In
Not even being
Australia.
a cryptid, but just not knowing.
There
that
was
there's
one.
A giant
There was
rainforest.
one. Do you remember Lost Tapes?
No.
Oh gosh,
Oh yeah,
great show from. I was young.
Yeah,
I'm 27, so I'm a little.
Lost tapes.
Well, we have a little bit difference in age,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to think how old you guys would have been. I was probably 10 to 12
probably
when
in
it
our
was
20s.
when it was out.
Yeah.
But it was basically like a found footage type thing with certain cryptids from around the world, but based off real events. A girl got eaten by a megalania, or at least that's kind of the story, in Australia. They found some of her video cameras, and it looked like something was chasing her, like following her. So Komodo dragons, I don't know if you know what they do. They have venom. It's
Yep.
been an argued
There's
fact
saliva.
for a long time.
Yeah.
They actually leak it through their gums.
Okay.
So they used to think the saliva was just so bacterial
toxic.
filled
Yeah.
that
But
would
it's
kill
actually
animals.
venom.
They actually have venom glands in their throat.
I didn't
So-
know that. I
it's-
thought it was all those.
That's all
bacteria,
really
too.
new.
Yeah, really new, because their venom
Yep.
glands were so small and so much further back than any other animal. We weren't looking for them. So normally they're in the face
Yeah.
or in the back of the head.
Yeah.
They have them way down lower,
Okay.
and they just kind of leak them. So what they do is they run up and they bite, and then they back off.
And they just follow you.
Yep, they're like, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
I don't got to do nothing. I'm
Yeah.
gonna fight you. I ain't gonna rip you up.
Yeah. They just track you until you go down. They're like
So this girl got followed by something for days. It wasn't ever lunging at her. But it was massive. But Aborigines have stories of like these living log monsters is what they kind of refer to them as, which are these giant lizards. They look like logs. There's a 2000 account of a Boy Scouting group going near this rainforest. A smaller, like, basically imagine the rainforest as a national park, so a state park that's kind of nestled up to it, but it's got roads and stuff in it.
okay.
So it's not as dangerous as going into the rainforest.
Gets you on the edge of it.
Yeah, but you can still go out with the Boy Scouts and stuff and see stuff. But something happens, civilization's right there,
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
and they sat on a log that stood up, and it was a megalania. And Komodo dragons aren't monsters. They eat. They are vicious predators. But when they're full or they're not hungry, they just walk off. They're not monsters.
Right.
So this thing just kind of like, oh, all right, these guys woke me up. I'm leaving.
Yeah. And took off.
And it was like a 25-foot lizard.
I mean, I remember years and years ago, I would hear stories out of Africa, Ogopogo, right?
Yeah.
Ogopogo's
Lake
Canada.
Not is it Ogopogo? What's the lake? In
Oyante
Africa?
Tambo is the Congolese.
Is that what it is?
Okele and Bembe.
Okele and Bembe.
Yeah, I went to
sorry.
Tambo, South
They-
America, I
I
think.
don't know if they
Yeah.
thought it was a
Yes,
brontosaurus.
That's an ancient
or-
site in
Site,
South
yeah.
America. Sorry.
So we've done a lot
Oh.
of research on Okele and Bembe. Actually,
Yeah.
we talked to Lyle Blackburn about it.
Yeah.
Oh, Lyle, we caught his presentation.
Yeah, we love Lyle. He's giving us shout outs on a couple of his stage shows and stuff like that, or stage presentations.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we kind of caught him, talked to him about it one day.
Yeah.
It's probably not a sauropod. That sauropod would be that long neck dinosaur family group.
Right.
Not because I don't think, anyways, not that they survived mass extinction, didn't survive mass extinction, that's a different argument. Okele and Bembe never had a tail until in the 1960s when all these white people from America were like, okay, they're seeing a dinosaur. They took these picture books. They're like, okay, is this what you're seeing? Then these guys were kind of like, well, kind of. And then they'd give them stuff. So like, oh, yeah, no, that's what we're seeing. They created this whole trade system for information. They created a false trade system. They want to know, now all these people in the Congo know the Americans want to see a dinosaur. So they draw the dinosaur with the big long tail. Okele and Bembe historically never had a tail.
Okay.
It was a still big, four-legged animal, long neck, hated hippos. That's the famous thing, is that like when you're in the Congo and you stop seeing hippos, you're probably not in a good area because Okele and Bembe hates you too. Okele and Bembe hates everything. So there was a creature that is from this part of Africa that was big. tied with the biggest land mammal to ever exist. It had a long neck and a very bad attitude.
And you think it was a mammal?
And it was famous for eating hippos.
What was it called?
The Paraceratherium. A mouthful. It's a rhino relative with a long neck, big tusk. So Mokele-mbembe has tusk teeth. So Paraceratherium has these tusk teeth. And the cool thing about Paraceratherium is that they had really dense bones.
Is this like a Pleistocene animal?
Yeah.
That they thought after...
Yeah, but they coexisted with hippos too.
Okay.
Hippos just survived.
Right.
So who's to say this thing didn't? These things were big. They hated hippos. And they had very dense bones. So there's a couple reasons animals have very dense bones. Is for weight distribution and being negatively buoyant. Hippos cannot swim.
Right, they walk.
Yeah. So hippos have very dense bones.
Yep.
Because they got a lot of fat on them, so they need to sink. Paraceratherium had very, very dense bones. Hated hippos. Lived a long time, and they lived very solitary lives. So I really think that the Paraceratherium is what Mokele-mbembe is.
Yeah.
And these things are monstrous. These are not small animals. These could pick up a hippo and throw it.
Damn.
So you're talking about 2 to 3 times the size of an African elephant.
Dude, the Congo's got to have so much weird shit. I mean,
You know,
you can't penetrate
Right.
that dense.
Well,
of
it's not even
jungle.
that. You know why we don't research it anymore?
I mean, you can just die of malaria.
The
like
guerrilla
that.
warfare.
Yeah, well, yeah,
There's
of
that
course.
too.
Because
Yeah.
Lyle was going to go do it, and it was just
Yeah.
too much money.
Absolutely.
Because you had to pay
You
every
gotta pay all
checkpoint.
the warlords off.
And they will kill you.
What's
Right.
Mokele-mbembe translate into?
The one that stops the river's flow.
So there you go. There's a good example. And then how many toes did the tracks normally
Thank
have?
you. I forgot.
You're missing some. Yeah.
Jay's
Way to go,
great for
Jay.
this. So Mokele-mbembe only ever has 3 toes. That's weird, right?
Yeah.
Sauropods always had 4 or 5. So sauropods still had 5 toes, but sometimes it was raised more on the foot, so you wouldn't see it in a track.
Kind of like a dog.
Yeah. So that dew claw, that'd be a
Yep.
sauropod's 5th digit. So sometimes they had 5 toes, sometimes they had 4 in the fossil record. Mokele-mbembe only ever has 3. That doesn't change
In the tracks.
in
yeah.
the tracks. And we have really good tracks in Mokele-mbembe with dermal ridges and everything. Like, it's a foot. Something real made this.
Like photos of it or casts?
Casts. There's casts that this
Okay.
exist. So Mokele-mbembe only has 3. Paraceratherium has 3. It's a cloven hoofed mammal. So the toes are actually fused. So there's odd-toed mammals and there's even-toed mammals. Paraceratherium was an odd-toed mammal with 3 toes. Even though the bones in the foot still have 5 digits. You see 3 toenails or 3 toes. So Paraceratherium fits that again. Fits the size, fits the attitude, the area, negatively buoyant bones, and a really bad attitude. And that's the big thing with Mokele-mbembe is they're like, you don't go near it.
Yeah.
Because
It will stomp you to death.
it will eat you or kill you. It hates hippos. We've seen it throw a hippo. You don't go near them because it will kill you.
Yeah.
It feels like there's cryptids and monsters and ancient relic animals living everywhere.
But the stories go
The more we
back
talk about it.
forever.
I know.
The indigenous stories of these things are just unbelievable. Like every ancient cultures has stories about biblical type floods, weird creatures, UFOs. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to you can't throw a stone
It's
without
even like going to Angkor Wat when we went to Cambodia and they have a carving relief of a
of
stegosaurus.
the
on it.
Stegosaurus.
Wow.
So I was like,
Yeah,
hey,
that's
make sure
true.
you go
You
see
see it
the
on the wall and you're like,
Stegosaurus.
You guys went there?
Yeah.
Bub did.
You see it and you're
That's
just like,
awesome.
that's not real. And then you're like, that is exactly what it is.
there.
I
It's a
remember telling you
stegosaurus.
about that before.
I've seen that
100%.
carving.
Yeah.
Not in person, but
Yep. 100%. It just, our guide walked us up to it and we all just kind of sat there for a minute like,
India's full of a lot of weird stuff.
We're hoping to go to India with our buddy VJ. He's exploring all these ancient temples out there. Shoots me like 100 photos, and I'm just like, God, I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
We
Look at the
gotta
ceilings.
go.
Look
Yeah.
at the ceilings and the shadows.
Well, India,
really?
India's fascinating because the Indo-European languages, like they're coming from Europe
Yeah.
down into India. Those ancient cultures were mixing with indigenous, Indian from the Indian continent, and they're bringing the Vedic texts and the Sanskrit text go back so far. Hinduism, there's cultures there that predate Hinduism by far. And it is one of the most advanced places in the stories of flying machines and the
Vimanas.
Vimana.
yeah.
Oh, they're jellyfish.
And, I've read the Bhagavad Gita, And that's interesting, but
I'm just picking on you.
you know,
Like I say, I really think they're only 5% of
he's
UFO
got me believing in
sightings.
fucking everything, bro. It's like Justin's right about it all.
How many's happened to you?
Huh?
How many times has it happened to you?
A few times.
Like
That's
two?
too
A few times.
And I just look at you and I'm like, that's stupid.
Exactly.
Whatever. Garbage. Giant Trees was the worst episode we ever did for Patreon.
Yeah, he just doesn't believe in anything
No,
if it
I
doesn't
hate
fall
the
into
people
a biological.
associated with it.
Yeah.
What's this topic?
I don't want to talk
Is it
about
like flat Earth dumb?
No, we
Yes.
just. Oh, jeez.
What is it,
Oh,
Jay?
how about
Jay, please.
Tartaria? Is it Tartaria dumb?
No, we
See-
can't pick on Tartaria because we have a special guest coming on our show
Oh,
about Tartaria.
Hey, there's.
I'm out when it comes to Tartaria. Sorry, I
I'm
think
not
it's
out
another. I think it's another
Corey Good?
CIA
Deep.
black op.
I don't believe it. but it's still- it's
misinformation,
just-
flat Earth type situation,
Misleading.
where it's like there's already so many great ancient civilization and weird technology stories. Like all of a sudden, Tartaria just like pops up, and now everybody's doing a podcast on it. It's like, man,
it's
I don't
new.
buy it, dude. I
Yeah.
don't buy
it's
it.
a shiny thing.
The mud flood is basically flat Earth of ancient civilizations. It's like that's the flat Earth of the ancient civilization.
You got to be
world.
careful. Jay believes in flat Earth.
I mean,
No, see, he just doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. He thinks I believe in flat Earth. I don't. I don't believe
I'm
we're
not looking at him.
flat plane. He's misrepresenting me.
Tell them what you-
I believe you
That
don't
was so
believe.
funny.
He doesn't believe in flat Earth.
Jay,
I just love
he's
just doing
missing
that.
I believe.
representing me.
I do. I believe the Earth isn't what we're told it is. I'll believe
Now,
that.
I think
In what
I can
sense?
agree with
Yeah,
that.
you
So
know,
I don't believe.
Hollow Earth. Hollow Earth.
Potentially, yeah.
Hollow Earth.
when
is-
I believe there's things below us and things above us. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Journey
realms
to the
of
center
living.
of the
When
Earth.
we're
But-
drunk, he'll just look at me and say flat Earth's real and stuff like that.
I
and
say
I'll
I
just
don't.
be like,
I don't believe in
put my
flat.
head through the wall.
I don't believe in flat Earth and the ice wall, and there's that
God,
containing a
that's
stupid
spin.
so
giant
But
trees.
what I-
Space isn't real. Birds aren't
See,
real. Is
they're-
the funniest internet meme ever.
He says it
Birds
to
aren't
me.
real. It's
I,
great.
I believe that space may not be real. I think that's a possibility. I think it could be a misrepresentation.
I'll take you to Chaco Canyon at 2 in the
Well,
morning.
it's not that space isn't real. It's
It's
just
7,000
It's just
See,
that
this is what
no.
we talk about. Is
It's
it-
that space is being misrepresented to be
Yes.
like this
And
vast
I don't-
emptiness of whatever planets out in billions of light years away or whatever other galaxies just like ours teeming with life or teeming with whatever planets and all that.
Yeah.
What if all that's just misrepresentation? And
misinformation.
we do see what's up there. We can see it. You can look up and see it.
Right.
So I'm not disputing that.
A lot of it's
It's just-
theoretical too.
Yeah, it's just
because
what
we don't
actually
have
is that.
instruments to
Go out
measure
there.
it.
I've
and
never went
that's-
up there and touched it or felt
Right.
it
I
or
love
seen
picking
it,
on Jay.
smelled it.
Yeah.
But I believe
Really? I never noticed.
it could be something different than what they're telling us. Or, this
Yeah.
we grew up in school. Everything. If you look what we've been taught in
Yeah.
school, it's
The
a
You know who set up the
misrepresentation.
school system?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in school that
Ford, wasn't
you
it?
come
No,
to
which-
find
which
out
businessman was it?
isn't real.
Rockefeller.
Yeah.
Rockefeller. Thank
There you
you.
go.
Right
He
there.
set up the education system.
I'm
So
right.
like
I know
space.
it's one of the evil ones. I just
when-
can't think of what.
When you're sitting in class and they're teaching you about space, this is what it is. Who's to say, like, okay, maybe it's, or just to stop and pause, maybe that is a misrepresentation.
Yeah.
Because when you look out into the vastness of space, we're this tiny little speck of, they say life, we're the only life out there, or else life would have visited us by
That's
now. If it was
bullshit.
so like infinite, then it's infinitely teeming with life. Then if we
Of
can't be the
course it
only thing,
is.
and
Yeah.
then something would have visited us,
Tardigrades.
They know
But
the Goldilocks
fungus.
zones.
But however, we haven't had this advanced civilization, visit us
Would you
supposedly.
Would you
But-
care about ants?
But, shh. But like,
Oh, I'm with Jay on this, to be honest.
When-
Like, we do care about ants. There's lots
Yeah.
of entomologists that are obsessed with
for sure,
like,
that's it's part of the
looking at studying.
ecosystem. We're all
Do you know
one.
any entomologist?
Huh?
We yelled at him.
Yeah,
I
we
called
yelled
him
at
a
him.
commie the other day. Not really. He's my neighbor.
But-
Kurt's an amazing man, but I was yelling at my dog and I called him a commie. And Kurt looked up, thought I was screaming
You
commie at
called
him.
your dog a commie.
He about knocked me over. So I
There's a lot of irony in that.
researching JFK stuff, and it was like, so I heard
Oh
the word
yeah, you'll get
commie
into
like
commie
600
stuff
times.
real
Oh,
quick with
Jesus.
that.
But like the Earth I just think it might be a realm of existence that life lives in. It's a special place because it is the only place where there actually is experience, where we're able to experience what we experience in this dimension, I guess.
I think this
So-
dimension is kind of like a school. Like
Yeah.
our existence on Earth, in a way, is like some sort of cosmic school where we're here to
experience.
do what we're supposed to do, experience love, hate, anger, like that's
emotion,
all part of the bag, but also like bring yourself up and raise yourself up to a spiritual level where you're actually trying to go through a process of leveling yourself up. And it's just, I mean, you think about it, like every time you walk out the door, you know, if you're open-minded, you can learn something, teach yourself something.
Absolutely.
And you know, the spiritual nature of everything is always been a big fascination of mine. It's like, are we in this some kind of simulation? You know, we have these meat suits that we walk around in. What's really going on, you know, is there this spirit that moves on into these other dimensions after we're down in the dirt and we're gone? Do we continue on? Do we keep that cycle of life going where it's just an energy disposition where just our energy moves on? And maybe it's into a whole nother existence. Maybe it's a whole nother realm, like you're saying with Earth. But, you know, we're going to live the next life that we need to live to learn what we didn't learn maybe in the previous life, potentially. You know, my wife's from, her father's from India. They're Hindu. So, you know, the concept of reincarnation has been really interesting because, you know, there's many times where it's like, I'm like, why am I so fascinated with Egypt? Why am I so fascinated with the Yucatan and ancient Mexico and Peru and all these places? And, you know, it's been interested in really just trying to understand why I'm into it. You just, maybe we lived some type of life in the far distant past.
You ever heard the baby God theory?
Let's hear it.
It's not one. I just kind of, basically, they were all the same being, pieces of the same being.
Sure, it's like a fractal. We're fractal nature of a larger
everything
whole. Yes, absolutely.
Life. Rich, poor, sorrow, happiness, love. And at the end of it, we're literally chunks of a baby God. And
of
this,
the
like
Godhead,
you're saying,
the Godhead.
This is school.
The Godhead.
So when you
like
start creating stuff
whole.
later, you know how everything feels.
Right.
So you're not vicious or not
That's
non-caring.
Yeah.
And it's not one I subscribe to, but it's definitely an interesting theory.
Yeah. And all I know is that growing up Catholic, most of that shit didn't make sense to me. And when I started learning about and really having my own mystical, spiritual experiences through, you know, different avenues and through really trying to like immerse myself into, you know, meeting different people and going through the ringer essentially, and trying to, on my own path, trying to discover who I was. I was adopted actually when I was 6 weeks old. So I grew up in, you know, Chickasaw, Ohio. But my father and biological mother, an experience in my 20s kind of woke me up because I never really cared. I always knew that I was adopted, but just, you know, these guys, my buddies, never made it a big deal. Every now and then growing up, somebody would make it into it. I just never cared. My mom and dad were my mom and dad.
Yeah, that's your parents,
they raised me.
You.
These are my friends. This is my little world.
Yep.
But as you get older, and especially, you know, when I was in my 20s, I'm like, I'm having all these kind of issues in my life because I didn't know who I was. I knew where I came from, but I didn't know my roots. I didn't know my history. So, you know, fast forward to when I had my first daughter, I started coming through really thick through experiences that I was having, you know, out in the woods and things that were like coming through. I couldn't push it away anymore.
Right.
And so because of her, it's like, I need to find out who I am to essentially like get past all these blockages to essentially get me to the point where, you know, I could, with good friends and help, create something like this.
Yeah.
If I hadn't gone down that path, Strange Road would never exist. So putting myself into situations to try to like just smack myself out of this matrix and try to understand a deeper level. And, you know, through that process, I took a DNA test. discovered that basically the entire UN conference is inside my body, like from all over, just because that region of Mexico had been taken over by so many, Jewish, there's Congolese, there's West African down there. The silver mines were in Zacatecas, where my father was adopted from. He was adopted too.
Wow.
See, I found all this stuff out through documents, and I went on Ancestry and just started digging deep. Within a week, I'd found my biological mother, not her contact info, but ended up getting a hold of her aunt, that all of her aunt's brothers had all passed. But through my research, I was like, this person may still be alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this key, and I know this connects to her. And then I just got a whitepages.com, found her phone number, and gave her a call. 2-3 days later, she calls me. Yeah, hi, how you doing? I'm having a barbecue at my house, cooking food for a bunch of friends. And I got kebabs on the grill, and all of a sudden it just starts pouring. And I run outside to take those kebabs off the grill, and the phone rings, and it's this lady saying, yeah, hi, you gave me a call, and you say you were given up for adoption in 1982. Well, I'm here to tell you that you are that boy, and your mother's alive, and they've all wanted to know where you were for your whole life.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And you have 2 brothers and two half sisters and 2 half brothers, which I kind of knew that. I didn't know they were boy and girl or how old they were.
You just knew they were
But I
there.
had found a birth certificate, my living birth certificate. So I have a birth certificate that says Michael Francis Leisner, parents Gene and Frank. But then I also have a living birth certificate, which is what I got unlocked when my daughter was really little. They released all those adoption records on the state level. It's right here in Columbus. Drove down there, submitted a form, and boom, I had this live birth certificate. I had Mary's, my birth mother's first and last name. Couldn't find her for years. I kind of just gave up until my wife got me Ancestry. I took the DNA test, and so the American Southwest DNA, the Hopi, all the way through Mexico. It's like I'm English, but it's pre-Anglo-Saxon English, which is like basically the people that built Stonehenge.
Mm-hmm.
So it has these genetic I'm like, Jesus, no wonder.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated with all this stuff.
It's in your DNA.
Maltese,
in your
like
makeup,
I'm
yeah.
obsessed with
Yeah.
the island of Malta and the
Malta's
giant
awesome.
stories there, and the crazy cyclopic structures and stuff there. Like Malta's in there, Italy, Spain. Sardinia is the
where sardines are
actual
from?
specific is Sardinian, but it's like 2%. But it's like my mother was like pretty much all Welsh and English, and Irish or whatever. But all the weird DNA comes from my father, who grew up in Mexico, in Zacatecas, where these silver mines were.
Yeah.
And then you dig into like the culture there, and there was a huge uprising against the Spanish. He's kind of like the Tecumseh of Mexico. He's like a folk hero down there. I want to get a tattoo of this guy like on the back of my calf. But Mezcalta was his name, and but like literally discovering all this stuff. When I just grew up in this little German Catholic area,
Right.
always felt a little different, but had good friends like these guys that we were just out of place weirdos. All of us banded together. We were kind of all
We did not fit in very well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We did
it's
and we
very
did and we didn't.
conservative, obviously. But I think it's it's important. Like you guys are young guys. You're going on your spiritual journey right now.
Mm-hmm.
The key, everybody has their own path to figure out where they're supposed to be and how they're supposed to get to, and it's all about feeling good about yourself, accomplishing something, and you guys are doing that. And part of this Cryptids to the Core, you guys have created something that, like, down the line, you're not even going to realize how important this really is until like 10 years down the road. And however far you want to take it, you'll take it. But yeah, I think that's like doing all this research and being obsessed with shit is cool. Like you, sir, are obsessed.
I have problems.
And it's cool as
Yes.
hell, though. Like to sit here and chat with you and go down these rabbit holes.
Yeah.
And, you know, I used to be like that more when I was in my 20s. I got kids now. It's hard for me to, like, really sit down and unless it's something, like, really going to bring me in and blow me away. But a lot of the stuff that we talk about, I was into a long, long time ago. So it's hard to, like, go back to when I was in those obsessive research states and digging into all this ridiculous
Staying up all
shit.
night watching YouTube
Oh,
videos,
dude,
reading articles. And
reading documents is really what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was going in the unclassified and Freedom of Information Act, finding the journalists that were pulling all of this stuff out and like reading white papers and on all kinds of shit about UFOs, the banking industry, you know, who's really running shit.
Yeah.
You know, figuring out how money works. All of those things, and then just slowly meeting people like we were talking about Jim Bowser, and we've had people that kind of pop in our lives where you feel like shit's being guided a little bit, but these synchronicities that happen, that's when you know you're on the right path. When you have these weird things that pop up, when you're like, damn, I just met this person and it led me to this and it led me to this. That's how you know. If you're not on the right path, you're not having all these amazing things. Like, you know, him and I went to Sedona and got smudged on top of in a canyon on top of a vortex in 2010. Like, that was another moment where just like all my chakras, whatever you want to call it, aligned. And it just like, and it took me a long time, like another 10 years to get to the point where we're doing this. But the message was pretty damn clear. This is what we're supposed to be doing back then in 2010. I mean, the Jeep tour guide that did all this for us was freaked out. Like, genuinely, Kevin was freaked out. He said, guys, this never happens.
everything that kept happening, it was great.
Because we did these spirit wheel cards.
Okay.
And it's kind of like a tarot card, but it's Native American spirit wheel. Spirit wheels are out in southwest United States where they're actually these big geometric structures, and people will sit in the center. They'll sit in the spokes of these wheels, and so it's through like a meditation. But it's this, and I don't fully understand the spirit wheel completely. But these cards are essentially like that type of astronomical, geometric, what your birthday is, what our connection is, and you put your intentions right into the cards. And we're up on this Boynton Canyon, that was a vortex basically that's not on the vortex maps.
Gotcha.
When you go to Sedona, you can get the airport vortex, you can go to this, and it's all like tourist attractions. This dude brought us in a Jeep that was like super remote.
We were in the middle of nowhere.
And this is his like little. He's like, man, you guys are into this. You just want to keep going because they booked like a 2-hour tour.
Heck
and he's
yeah.
like, I don't normally do this, but would you guys want to go to this kind of secluded area?
He was like, oh, these guys are down for it. I get to do what I want on the tour.
And I'll break out the spirit wheel card. We're like, what are spirit wheel? He goes, oh,
he had a flute out.
He was playing flute. He smudged us for the first time up there.
I think there was mention of Avatar at one point because things were getting so strange. He was just like, he's like, turns around while he's driving the Jeep. He's like, you guys ever see Avatar? We're like, yes, Kevin. Yes, we have.
But
I think we were a nice change of pace.
Kevin Torres, I've been trying to find this guy
for a while.
For years. I cannot.
We were not the typical tourist that when he said,
"Oh, that's not real."
When he said, "Oh, that's Bart Simpson rock,"
he talked to us
and
about.
he'd have people go, "How did you do that?" And he's like, "No, like nobody carved it. Those rocks they just look like shapes."
They look like Bart.
But people are like, "Oh, who's the artist?" He's like, God or whoever.
Yeah.
Like,
but we get up there and like most of the time it's like tourists from LA.
Right.
The people that he's got to give these Jeep tours. So me and him are just
There's a
stoked.
vortex.
Yeah.
We're just stoked, bro. We're out there like, dude, he taught us how to connect to the energy.
We're
Take your
talking about
fingertips
Ashtar.
over top of the.
Have you ever heard of Ashtar? The like alien warden of the Southwest.
Yeah, he lives in
that apparently roams the canyons of Sedona.
The Greys are all in the canyons in these.
And he keeps them in
inner chambers. The Greys.
Keeps them in Ashtar.
Ashtar is the sheriff essentially of
of
all
the
Greys. That he goes and you talk
He needs to keep them in there.
And he said you talk to the old timers, the people that are 80s, 90s, and they'll tell you all of the weird shit that flies out of those canyons, the weird sightings. They know about the aliens inside the canyons, but basically Ashtar is like the one that keeps all the troublemakers in check. Civil. And you can go back to Ishtar in Sumeria. You know, there's tons of writings in ancient civilizations about different variations of but Ishtar is a big one. So it's weird. Like, is he, this what they call ascended masters, right? Like Saint Germain. So if you go to all the Crowley spin-off Madame Blavatsky stuff.
I knew that from Madame Blavatsky.
The White Brotherhood. So they're kind of like channeling groups that now spin off into these UFO cults that are everywhere. It all really started with like Blavatsky and Crowley and a lot of those guys. But Ashtar is a big figure in those groups, in the White Brotherhood. So when he said Ashtar, I about shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is wild. But the cards that we pulled, the spirit wheel cards after, mine was like to the T. Like literally everything pretty much that I'm doing now, the message that you got, as we're reading them out, Kevin's like, this never happens. These cards, this is exactly what you guys have been telling me about. And so it was kind of like this just lightning rod. And I try to put ourselves as much as I can. And lately it's just, we've been hustling, building the company, building Strange Road, And so gotta have like these points in your life where you take a little time and go out and just do something completely different. You'll run into those type of Kevin type of people. Oh, yeah. You guys are on that path now.
Oh, we found them.
I was about to say, I'm sure
we found them.
Yeah,
exactly.
I love them.
Hit a couple of them. Yeah.
But Bowser, perfect example. Like, there's just these people throughout our lives that have, come in and guided us.
Yeah.
And there's something like, if you're on the right path, there's something moving you in a direction. Yeah. But I'm starting to get buzzed up, so I'm talking out of my ass.
That's great.
How long do you guys normally do episodes for?
Whatever.
I don't know if we ever have a time
What time
limit.
is it?
It's 9:30. We've done this for 3.5 hours.
Okay. Well, we should probably wrap this up.
I was going to say,
I was with you on that.
if you do me a favor, because I know this is going to be cross-posted.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, would you guys shout yourself out, where to find you, all that stuff?
Yes, absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Cryptids of the Corn listeners, what's up? I'm Mikey. This is Bub.
Hello.
We are The Strange Road. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at The Strange Road. We have a Twitch channel with not much action, but we're really active streaming on YouTube. We have audio platforms, Spotify, Google, Apple, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcasts, we're on. I'm Spiral Mikey on Instagram. Bub is at Bub Ranley on Twitter.
Yep.
I love Kyle, Twitter. Our producer, is at Kyle Stonard on Instagram. If you guys, we'd love to hear from you. We really do appreciate these guys.
Oh, 100%.
Their show is much larger than ours, and we're just honored to have them down in the new studio. And we'd love to hear from you. We're trying to build something cool. We're trying to, do our thing, follow our passion, and we'll see where it takes us. But we're happy to, have some new listeners potentially.
Yeah,
so
I think you definitely will.
We really appreciate
you definitely will.
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, just from when we first met you guys at Cryptidcon, I was like, this is gonna work. Yeah. Like, it just, in the sense of, I don't even care if we weren't doing a podcast right now. I'd still want to just hang out and talk.
Yeah. Those are the best. And
that's all I need to know.
Yep. We could talk off air about like behind it. Those are the ones that work the best.
Yeah.
When you just sit here and we can have this 3.5 hour conversation.
It went by like that.
And not know it was 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Right? I was only looking because I had to pee.
Right. That's perfect. That's what I said.
And
after
I'll put that at the
Cryptidcon,
beginning of the episode also. I'm going to cut that out and I'm going to flip it up to the top.
Yeah, cool.
That way, because not everybody will probably make it through 3.5 hours.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And I forgot to mention, we are from Columbus, Ohio. I know you guys
New drinking buddies.
right down,
Yep,
absolutely.
we're right down the road.
Come out to C-Bus anytime. We'd love to come, see you guys.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna
we'd
have you
love
guys
to
in the
hang out.
studio.
Absolutely.
But you guys' studio is a lot better than ours.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well,
We may have a bigger following, but you guys have a lot nicer of a studio.
Well, it's been a process, and that's one of the reasons why we probably don't have as big of a following, because it's taken a little bit of time, and piece by piece putting this together. So
you just gotta drink more moonshine. It'll come.
yeah, and then we need to drink more moonshine, and maybe. Well, we already do the other too much, but it's okay. But we had a great time.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming down.
Again,
Oh, thanks
Thanks
for
for
having us
hanging
in.
out.
the Strange Road, Cryptids of the Corn, Cryptids of the Strange Corn Road.
Yeah.
Cryptids of
SWAPCAST.
the Strange Corn Road.
And you got to
I love
say it
it.
a couple
I
times.
love it.
Strange Corn Road.
People are gonna
great.
look at the title and not know what the hell this is about.
Yeah.
Well, like
I'm
I
not-
said, it's a working title.
No, it's
We'll come up
what
with-
it's what it is.
Okay. Well,
like
the
it.
algorithm's going to hate it, but
Yeah.
we're going to love
Ah,
Screw
I'll
the
push
algorithms.
the hell out of this.
Yeah.
it. Anyways, anybody that's still with us on YouTube, we love you.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah.
for watching. Thanks for
Hope you
sticking
enjoyed
with
it.
us. This has been super fun. I mean, this is the exact reason why we put this
Yeah.
together
Yeah,
and
was great.
did this.
this will not be the last one.
Yeah,
No,
no doubt. Again, anything
Signing
else,
off?
Bub?
No,
Signing
I had a
off?
great time. I had
Guys?
Yeah.
thorough
So
fun.
we have a tradition on our show. I know this
Oh.
is not our studio,
Oh, no.
Do what you
but
do.
I would love to take over.
I'm a terrible host, so
do what
please
you
step
do.
in at any time.
We end every episode with somebody else, with counting down from 3
Okay.
and screaming bye into the mics.
Okay.
The whole goal for home was we're trying to break a mic, because then we get a free one. If it's an audio glitch from Rode, you get a free mic.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you're just doing some quality control.
Quality test.
Yeah.
So I'll count down from 3 and we'll scream if you guys are okay with that.
Sure, absolutely.
All right.
How loud are you?
3, 2, 1.
Bye!
That was fun.
I just screamed.
I gotta pee.
Dude,
Yep.
I can't believe you lasted this long. Like,